Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 29th episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraiya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. Perched at the top of an electric post, Itachi surveyed the village. One couldn't appreciate the sheer magnitude of the destruction and ruin brought by Akatsuki until it was witnessed from bird's eye view. While the Uchiha had been in many battles and killed far more people than he could remember, he had never witnessed the aftermath of such catastrophe. He hadn't been present during Akatsuki's invasion of Taki. Given that the village of the waterfalls was much smaller and thus had a weaker defense force, he wondered if it ended up worse than Konoha. Though unlike them, we were lucky enough that our number of casualties is zero, Itachi reflected. Houses can be rebuilt, but a life that has been ended is lost forever. The Uchiha was snapped from his thoughts by a loud caw, accompanied by the sound of wings flapping. Turning around, he saw a crow flying towards him. Itachi held one arm, and the bird gently landed on it. He then brought the bird closer to his ear. "What news do you bring?" he asked. The crow cawed softly into Itachi's ear for about 20 seconds, with the Uchiha nodding a couple times. "Understood. Thanks for your help, you did an excellent job," Itachi replied. The crow merely made a small head bow, before spreading his wings and flying into the sky once again. Itachi then vanished from the top of the pole, as if he never has been there. Konoha Hospital. Needless to say, word about Jiraiya taking the Rinnegan from the Akatsuki leader and placing them on a strongbox in the hospital's basement spread quickly, despite the Sanin's best efforts to suppress them. Still, the increased security detail and, thankfully temporary, entrance restrictions did very little to dissuade these rumors. So far, the only people allowed to enter the hospital, besides the usual staff, were other medic-nin. New patients were submitted to a short inspection to ensure they were really sick and needed to be admitted. People who wanted to visit their loved ones had to submit a form, then the patient in question would be asked if he or she knows that person, and their permission on entering or not. Naturally, there were many protests regarding these measures, but the Hokage wasn't really in a position to soothe these complaints. He was hoping they could choose a new wielder for the eyes soon, so things could return to normal. The only ones not affected by these restrictions were important ninjas or those close to the Hokage professionally, such as the Jonin commander, the ANBU commander, the advisors, and of course, the Jinchuriki. Even if one of them was a patient himself. "I swear I'm good," Naruto said, lying on his bed, surrounded by his immediate family. "I don't need to be here." "Yes you do. Your doctor said so," Tsunade insisted. "You're my doctor, Mom," Naruto replied, as he scowled and crossed his arms. "That doesn't invalidate my statement," Tsunade said. "You spent quite a lot of chakra during that fight, and you didn't come out of that fight completely unscathed. Even you have your limits. You're going to stay here until tomorrow morning, and that's final." Naruto was going to protest again, but Jiraiya spoke before he could. "Give it a rest, kid. You fought against two of the most powerful Akatsuki members. We just want to make sure nothing awful comes out of it." Naruto sighed heavily, seemingly conceding defeat. "It's okay, brother," Hagane said emphatically, patting Naruto's shoulder. "While you were fighting the Akatsuki, Mom forced those Exodo ninjas to babysit me, for my protection. Never mind, they were the ones who needed me to protect them. Son, the last time you fought an Akatsuki you ended up almost dead," Jiraiya sternly said, glaring at his youngest son. "Hanabi fought against that Tonari guy again," Hagane countered. "Yeah, and she's in another hospital room, with her family worried about how long until she wakes up again," Jiraiya retorted. "I talked with Hikari-san. Hanabi is only exhausted." "Don't be so dramatic, Dad," Kaida said, as she rolled her eyes. "I would have liked to get some payback from that lunatic bastard," Hagane said, crossing his arms. "Guess I'll have to console with the fact that Hanabi and Hinata-san did it on my behalf." Think it was thanks to you discovering the truth-seeking ball's weakness to nature energy that Hinataheim and Hanabi managed to win against him, Naruto reminded him. So you did contribute to his downfall in a way. This made Hagane smile a little. Heh. Guess you're right. Man, I'm so glad that I had the idea to teach other people about senjutsu, Hinata in particular. The next time that creep comes for her, she'll be able to kick his ass easily without my help, Naruto said, nodding in satisfaction. Or she will, once we finish the training. All of them were almost there. I can't wait until everything goes back to normal so we can resume and complete the training. A squad of sages will improve Konoha's might greatly. Especially in the face of the threat that's to come, Jiraiya agreed. That moment, there was a knock in the door. Tsunade opened the door, and there stood Hinata, standing a bit awkwardly. I was told Naruto-kun is here, Hinata began, twiddling her fingers. It's okay if I come in. Tsunade smiled knowingly, as she exited the room. Sure thing, Hinata. But make sure he doesn't move much. I need him to recover as soon as possible. I will, Tsunade-sama, Hinata said, making a head bow. Come on everybody, let's give these two some space. There were no protests, as Jiraiya and the twins quickly followed after Tsunade, leaving the Uzumaki alone with his girlfriend. Hey there, Hinata said, as she closed the door behind her and walked towards the bed. You look good. When I was told that you were hospitalized, I feared for the worst. Naruto rolled his eyes. Blame my mom. She got all paranoid that I might suddenly drop dead or whatever. After what happened to Hagane-kun, I couldn't blame Tsunade-sama for fearing for her children's safety, Hinata gently said. Still, she should trust me a little more. I'm not a kid anymore, Naruto complained. Given what you did, I guess so. Plus the hospital is kind of becoming quite the usual spot for us, isn't it? Hinata noted with a soft giggle. Kind of depressing, when you think about it, Naruto said, making a slight grimace. So, how about you? I see Tonari didn't touch you that much. Thankfully, no. Hanabi-chan and Fusen were the ones who took the worst of the fight, Hinata told him. Fusen is a Jinchuriki and heals fast, but Hanabi-chan is going to need more time before she recovers. Hope she recovers quickly, or else she's going to lag behind you on your sage training, Naruto told her. Hinata's brow furrowed a little, and crossed her arms disapprovingly. Naruto-kun, do you think it's a proper situation to talk about training? After all this? What's wrong with that? Naruto asked, scratching his temple. We just came out from one of the worst debacles that had befell upon our village, Hinata said. Maybe we should try to enjoy this reprieve, relax, and have some fun. Those words seemed to have a deep effect on the blonde, who first looked a bit astonished, before his face became more pensive. Guess you have a point. I had nothing but Akatsuki in my mind for the past months, and I think it's starting to take a toll on me, Naruto admitted. We won't have to worry about Akatsuki for some time, Hinata said, as she came closer and sat on the bed. How about if we plan something fun? Maybe something with the rest of our friends. They surely need to relax as well, given that they all fought against Akatsuki, or so I heard. Yeah. I don't think we've ever done anything together since we attended Kurenai's wedding, Naruto said, as he gave Hinata's idea some thought. Glad you're on board, Naruto-kun. Now, let's see what we could do that's suitable for a large group. Inside one of the hospital's waiting room was Shizen's medical squad, plus Shisui. Once the battle was over, Shizen's team had been busy helping to heal all the wounded. Sasuke and Shisui also helped in every way they could, despite their lack of medical skills. After working for many hours, and the number of patients in need of immediate attention substantially decreased, they were finally told to get some rest. Ugh, I'm so tired, Sakura groaned, as she slumped onto the waiting room's not very comfortable chairs. The Kiri Civil War was nowhere near as bad as this one. You're not the one who was bitten all over her body and had her chakra drained, Karen complained, as she shot the pink-headed dirty look. While the Uzumaki girl only allowed people to bite her during emergencies, that word had lost most of its meaning during the past hours, given the amount of wounded in critical condition she had to heal through this unpleasant method. Come on, Karen, this was an exceptional situation. Nobody's going to make you do this on a daily basis, Shizun said, baby Shiro in her arms. After the battle was over, Shizun immediately left for her home, where the genin team she had hired to babysit her children were when she saw them last. The house was empty. That was good, meaning that the genin did the sensible thing and fled towards one of the underground shelters. And thankfully, her assumptions proved to be true. After retrieving her kids and giving the genin a little extra money for their good job, she returned to the hospital. Also, did you notice that they captured one of the Akatsuki and brought them here? Shursui asked, as she was holding his daughter. Man, that Naruto. Killing an Akatsuki and capturing another. TSK. I should have been sent to fight them as well, Sasuke scoffed. Had I fought an Akatsuki, either they would have died by my blade, or begged me to spare them. I mean, how did so many Akatsuki manage to escape like that? Akatsuki is made of S-class criminals. Those kind of people didn't get to stay that long in the business if they allowed themselves to be captured or killed so easily, Sakura intervened. Don't worry, Sasuke-kun, you'll have your chance to bring them down in the future. Yeah. They still need to capture Fu and Naruto Nizan, Karen added, before a terrible realization dawned upon her. Oh shit. Does that mean that they'll be back soon? I find that unlikely, Shizun said, shaking her head. On top of all the expendable minions, they also lost two of their most prominent members. They'll need time to heal their wounds and recover from their losses. Not to mention, they need to put up a new hierarchy, if word of the leader being killed is true, Sakura helpfully added. I'm confident Obito decided to take the reins of the organization now, Sasuke mentioned. Which makes them more dangerous, as Obito is a far more unhinged individual than this Pain was, or so I was told. Regardless, not even Obito would be stupid enough to attack us so soon, Shursui replied. All he'd accomplish is losing the rest of his forces. Even if you have a point, underestimating Akatsuki is never a wise thing to do, Shizun reminded him. One time we thought we were going to beat them, and bam. They summon another 9 tails. Before the conversation could continue, a newcomer, the remaining Uchiha, arrived the waiting room. Hello, Itachi greeted them in his usual stoic tone. I'm glad to see that all of you seem to be fine. Brother, Sasuke greeted back. Where have you been, by the way? During the battle, I mean. I heard that you disappeared in the middle of the battle. I was preparing for an ambush that never came, Itachi replied. And yes, it made me mad that I decided to leave the battle for nothing in the end. I did hear that your team and Shursui had a hard time defending the hospital. And that's putting it lightly, Karen piped in. Healing the wounded in the middle of a battlefield is even more stressing and nerve-wracking than fighting. But we managed to do it, Sakura added. Anyway, Itachi then turned at his cousin. Shursui, may I speak with you for a moment? In private. The oldest Uchiha raised an eyebrow, but got up from his chair. Sure, and handed Shizuka to Sasuke before walking towards his cousin. Itachi? Shizun asked, sounding a bit worried. It's nothing, Shizun. Or at least, I hope it will be nothing, Itachi said, as he and Shursui left the waiting room. Just take care of Sasuke and the girls. We'll be back before you realize. As the two oldest Uchiha left, Itachi led Shursui to the hospital's room. Even if Shursui didn't show it, he couldn't help but feel uneasy at him. What was so important that Itachi had to hide from Shizun and the others? Okay, cousin, spill the beans, Shursui demanded, though he tried to still sound gentle. She might have not shown it before, but I can tell you made Shizun a little upset. I know, Itachi solemnly replied. But I can't talk about this with a large group of people, in a zone where prying ears might hear it. Okay, what is it? Itachi turned around and locked his eyes at no Shirsues. Danzo knows about the Rinnegan. The hospital is going to be attacked by his goons, probably tonight, in hopes of stealing Pain's eyes for himself, Itachi stated. Another person was leaving the hospital as well, another medic Nin. Like Shizen's medical squad, this young woman had been treating the injured non-stop to the best of her ability, and after many hours of hard work, was told to go and get some rest. Feeling exhausted and appreciating the offer, she decided to head back home. Not even Hashirama's cell's regenerative properties will be able to curb this tiredness, Rin said, letting out a heavy sigh. Yo, a familiar voice said from behind. Rin turned around and saw Kakashi leaning against the wall beside the hospital's doors, reading one of those porn books written by the Hokage. It was the one thing she could never get used to, no matter how many times she saw it. Tamaki, Kiba, and Shino seemed to find it normal, though, even if they didn't approve of their sensei's literary tastes. Kakashi, Rin said, forcing herself to smile. How long have you been there? Not much, really, Kakashi answered, thankfully closing the trashy novel and putting it on his back pocket. I'd been with Guy some time, but I find hospitals a bit oppressive, and found myself in need of fresh air. I see, Rin replied. Truth be told, one of the nurses kicked Kakashi out when she spotted him reading that book in public, but the silver-haired Jonin had enough shame not to admit that in front of the few people he cared and respected. What about you? Have you been helping the hospital staff all this time? Kakashi asked. That's right. I was going home, but I can go for a walk with you if you want somebody to talk to, Rin offered. I'll take up on your offer, Kakashi said, as both he and Rin started to walk away from the hospital. And maybe I can be somebody you can talk to as well. You look like you need it more than I do. I'd be lying if I deny it, right? Rin said with a sad chuckle. I admit that seeing and fighting Obito again has been quite the challenge. Yeah, I feel you, Rin, Kakashi agreed. No, what I mean is, Rin tried to explain. You know I already fought Obito once. When I was sent as an add-on to Shizen-san's team when the other half of the Nine Tails attacked the Land of Lightning. Yes, Kakashi said, as he quickly connected the dots. Were you expecting that your second fight with Obito would be different? While Rin was a bit surprised that Kakashi caught her intention so quickly, she hid her surprise and merely nodded. I thought this time would be easier. I thought that I'd be prepared to face him. I see, Kakashi laconically replied. I'm afraid to tell you that such thing will never become any easier. Or maybe it will, but not anytime soon. Obito used to be part of our team, and a dear friend. It will take some time before we stop seeing him like that. Rin didn't say anything, she just nodded silently. Though, for all that it's worth, you fought amazingly, Kakashi praised her. You think so? The medic Nin replied, rubbing her arm a little. Of course. Not only did you kept all of us healed when Shino was in the Kamui dimension, but without you subduing the Nine Tails, there's no way we could have forced Obito to retreat, Kakashi told her. If it wasn't for you, well, Kami knows how much harm Obito and his pet Nine Tails would have done. I'm not the only one here with wood release. Somebody else could have filled my role, Rin replied. That Tenzo guy, for example. I did met him some time ago. Oh, Kakashi said in mild curiosity. And what did you think about him? He's an okay guy, I guess, Rin said, shrugging a little. I mean, we didn't even talk that much, but I got a good impression. Though I have to respect how, after going through so many crazy experimentations and being trained by Danzo, the guy still has any sanity left. No matter how horrible, there's no trauma we can't overcome, Kakashi reassured Rin. Tenzo is a man with a powerful force of will. He wasn't going to let his tragedies to define him. What about you, Kakashi? From what I was told, before realizing that Obito and me were still alive, it didn't appear that you got over our deaths, Rin pointed out. Ah, touche. You don't pull your punches, do you? Rin shot Kakashi a sympathetic smile. Sorry for such a cheap shot. But you got me worried a little bit when I was told of your less admirable habits. I guess losing Obito, then you, and then Sensei, Kakashi began. I was afraid that, if I moved on, if I got out from the hole I was in, somebody would push me back sooner or later, and I didn't want to feel that pain again. Hell, the third pretty much had to force me to take a team of genin in order to break me out of my funk. Did it work? I'll admit that I'm better than I was before, so I'll call it a win, Kakashi said, slumping his shoulders a little. They're awesome people. And they're lucky to have you as your sensei, Rin told him, gently patting him in the shoulder. I wouldn't call anybody lucky to have me as a teacher, Kakashi admitted, chuckling a little. Come on, give yourself some credit, Rin insisted. They're strong, and they're alive. That has to speak something good about your teaching skills, right? Guess I can't argue with that logic, Kakashi admitted, before his expression darkened a little. Though, by that trail of thought, that would make Minato-sensei a pretty awful teacher. Rin stopped on her tracks when the implication of what she thought was a heartfelt compliment hit her like a slap in the face. I didn't mean. No, Minato-sensei was what I mean it's that dash, Rin quickly stammered, trying to find a way to undo her unintentional insult to her late sensei. Relax, Rin, I know you weren't trying to insult Minato-sensei, Kakashi reassured, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. Despite all his good things, he was still human. And even if I don't resent him, I think he's partly to blame for what happened to us. Rin raised an eyebrow and shot a worried look at Kakashi. She couldn't imagine how Kakashi would blame Minato for their team's downfall. Minato-sensei was a powerful and precocious ninja, possibly the strongest ninja this village ever produced, Kakashi began to explain. And thus, he soon found himself being able to take care on multiple powerful opponents on his own, not needing teammates to cover his back. In fact, he was the one who helped others. That allowed him to fly solo pretty easily. And you think that was his mistake with US? Rin guessed. Letting us going on our own too soon? Kakashi nodded. Yes. He taught us to the best of his abilities, and we became pretty strong as a result. But he mistook our power with capability. We might have been strong, but we weren't ready to face greater challenges. You were okay, but Obito and I had a load of issues that needed to be solved before we could do missions without his supervision. Obito was something of a pariah among the Uchiha clan, and thus he lacked confidence in his abilities. And I made him feel even more inadequate. That's why I presume he was so fixated on beating me. He saw beating me as proving himself, as well as showing his worth to the other Uchiha. Plus he also wanted to impress you as well. Rin never realized that Obito liked her until Kakashi told her, shortly after his presumed death. And looking back, the medic Nin realized how incredibly obvious it was. While she obviously liked Obito as a friend, she sometimes wondered if a relationship with him could have worked. Not that it mattered anymore, sadly enough. And I wasn't much better, Kakashi continued. Despite my skill and power, I was the most dysfunctional member of our team. I didn't get over my father's death, and that affected me deeply, both as a person and how I treated other people. Again, even if I don't resent him for it, Minato-sensei should have noticed these issues and realized that we weren't ready to go on our own yet. Rin pondered Kakashi's words. All her life she always thought of Minato as a great teacher, and she considered herself lucky to have the legendary Yellow Flash to train her. But now her teammates' words made her look Minato under a different light. It was almost funny how Minato missing a few small details about his students ended up in such a tragic outcome. I do keep Minato-sensei close to my heart, and will be always happy to have him as a teacher, Kakashi began. But his memory is also a constant reminder that I need to be a better sensei than him. That I can't let my students end the same way we did. That's why, even if they think that I'm holding them back, I won't let them undertake challenging missions on their own until I see they're absolutely prepared. And you think they aren't? Rin asked. You've spent quite a lot of time with them. What's your impression? Kakashi asked. Rin's expression became thoughtful, placing a finger under her chin, as she recalled all the interactions she had with the animal squad. Soon, the answer became obvious. I'd say Shino is mostly fine, Rin began, looking at Kakashi for a nod of or approval or a head shake of negation, only to find neither. Still, she decided to continue. Kiba and Tamaki are the problem. They sometimes break into arguments, usually over petty things, and have the need to outdo each other. Sometimes, even when there's a bigger problem to take care of. An accurate assessment, yes, Kakashi nodded, and Rin visibly relaxed. Anything more? Despite that, they aren't hopeless. They do care about each other, they simply have a hard time showing it. I think that, deep down, besides a rivalry, they also want to impress the other. I'd even say that they got over their issues, they could even hook up and become a couple. Once again, you're correct, Kakashi said with a nod. All three of them are ready to be at least special jonin, but in Kiba and Tamaki's case, I'm not going to allow any promotion as long as they don't resolve their issues. Guess that's a good way to protect them from themselves, Rin admitted. Do you think they'll solve their issues soon? I hope. Though I want them to realize it on their own. I want to protect them, but I'm not going to hold their hands all the way, Kakashi said, making Rin giggle a little. A few hours later nighttime fell over Konoha, and people returned to their homes after such a traumatic day. Or at least, those who still had homes. Large tents had to be set in order to give the now homeless ninjas and civilians a place to sleep. A place they'll have to use before new houses could be built. However, not all ninjas were going to rest that night. Many of them still have to perform their night shifts in order to ensure the safety of the village. Especially those protecting the hospital, given the importance of the place. The hospital had ninjas protecting all entrances, several at ground level, and a single one in the roof. A trio of Konoha ninja, 2 chunin and a jonin, were tasked with protecting the roof. They were tired, yawning and eager to go home, and couldn't wait anymore for the replacements to arrive already. Man, the replacements are surely taking their time, are they? One of the chunin, a young man, whined. Don't worry, they'll come. The village is simply in disarray, Thre Jonin intervened. Things like this are kind of expected. Remember the aftermath of Orochimaru's attack? Maybe the replacements died in battle, the second chunin, a woman, suggested. The first ninja shook his head. Everybody who died was resurrected after the battle was over. Everybody. Dying isn't an excuse to slack. Hey, look, I think they're coming, the second ninja said, noticing several figures jumping from roof to roof, heading towards the hospital. Finally, the first ninja said, rolling his eyes. Took you long enough, you jackasses. It's 15 minutes since wait, the female guard said, grabbing his partner's shoulder. Something's wrong. Upon her warning, all of them tensed up. They didn't adopt fighting stances, but their hands quietly moved towards their ninja tool pouches. It didn't take long for them what she meant. For once, there were 6 ninjas as opposed to the 3 they expected to come. Also, they weren't wearing the standard Konoha uniforms, but black robes. And their faces were concealed by white and red masks, not different from those used by the ANBU. Except their instincts pretty screamed that these strangers were no ANBU. I'm going to ask this once, the jonin said in a grave voice, taking a step forward. Who are you? We are Konoha's saviors, the leader of the group said in a clearly female voice, taking another step forward as well. Who came to save Konoha from herself? Root, the female chunin shouted, as she and her partners immediately drawn their weapons. The masked woman just shook her head, and made a hand seal. I have no time to deal with you. Temple of Nirvana Jutsu. The 3 Konoha guards saw white feathers falling from the sky around them, while also starting to feel very sleepy. It's a genjutsu. Dispel it. The Jonin ordered, as he brought his hands together in a hand seal, and sent a burst of chakra through his body. But for some reason, the sleepiness didn't disappear. What how? There's no person on this world that can resist or undo my genjutsu, the masked woman said, her voice cold and stoic. Not even the Uchiha. In a few seconds, the three guards were lying on the ground, completely asleep. The woman walked past them and entered the hospital through the door at the roof. She then tapped an earpiece under her mask. This is Akuma. I'm in, Akuma said. Understood. Time until extraction, a man at the other side of the line asked. I presume it won't take more than 10 minutes, Akuma said. Make sure your team is ready. I'll be sending a signal soon. Roger that. Good luck with your mission, Akuma-san. A few minutes later, Akuma's team managed to slip completely undetected towards the basement of the hospital. Turns out, while the security on the outside was tight, the inside was barely protected. Jiraiya might have thought that there's no way an intruder could have gotten into the hospital. There it is, one of the masked ninjas said. The room where the safe box containing the Rinnegan eyes was completely dark. Wordlessly, one of the masked ninjas made a couple hand seals, and formed a small orb of white light that illuminated the place. Hello there. Revealing Jiraiya leaning against the safe box, with his arms crossed in a nonchalant pose, smirking confidently. I was waiting for you to show up, Jiraiya continued, as he snapped his fingers. A detachment of ANBU appeared almost out of nowhere, their weapons drawn and aiming towards the intruder's vital spots. So, I'm guessing you're Danzo's goons, right? Jiraiya said, as he walked towards them. I knew word that we got the Rinnegan would spread. And that Danzo wouldn't resist the chance to get his hands on it. I was hoping that he would lead the heist personally, but guess that was wishing too much. Danzo-sama is a wise man, fake Hokage, the leader of the team said. His intelligence is high and his instinct is sharp. He knows when an enemy is setting a trap. Yet he didn't hesitate about sending you to your doom, knowing it was a trap, Jiraiya replied. I know Danzo considers all his subordinates expendable, but given his current situation, I believe he'll use some pragmatism and try to keep what little troops he still has. Again, you underestimate Danzo-sama, the masked ninja insisted. Tell me, Hokage. Haven't even realized that this might be a diversion in order to draw your attention somewhere else while the rest of us steal the eyes? Jiraiya paled upon hearing such words. The masked ninja noticed. Yes. We know the Rinnegan eyes aren't here, the masked ninja revealed. You only put fakes while the true ones are hidden inside your office. There's another team stealing the Rinnegan as you speak. Jiraiya managed to shoo away the shock, and brimming with anger, stomped towards the masked ninja once again. Just who the hell? Jiraiya asked as he forcefully removed the mask. What? Under the mask, there was nothing but a black, empty void. You're a nothing but a foolish child, Jiraiya, the faceless ninja said, his voice distorting as he and his teammates started to dissolve into nothingness. Soon, Danzo-sama will have a power that none of you will be able to match. And the faceless ninjas disappeared. Shit. Shit, shit, shit. Jiraiya cursed as he dashed out of the hospital basement. To the Hokage Tower, now. Wordlessly, the ANBU quickly followed his lead. A purple-haired ANBU with a cat mask quickly caught up to him. What the hell was that? Yugao asked. That couldn't have been a genjutsu. I was sensing those ninja. They were really there. I have an idea of what it can be, Jiraiya replied. Danzo fooled us the same way the first time he escaped. It seems he's trying the same trick twice. And you knew this? Yugao asked, outraged. At that moment, she didn't care that the Hokage was the superior. What Jiraiya did was a huge negligence. Then why didn't you prepare for such a situation? Jiraiya, however, smirked. I did prepare for it, Jiraiya confidently said. But I had to make sure that none of Danzo's spies knew about my true plans. Akuma and her team were finally out of Konoha, jumping from one tree branch to another as they moved to the west, to the meeting point with Danzo. The root leader didn't want to leave any room for mistake, and wanted to have the Rinnegan in his possession as soon as possible, even if he couldn't be able to implant the eyes into his body yet. Once the delivery was done, they would continue west, towards the coast. Once they reached a small harbor, they would take a ship already waiting for them that would take them into open sea. From there, they could plan their next move without fear of being found. Even if Jiraiya had forced Danzo and his men out of Konoha, there were still many undercover agents that hadn't been found, which continued to spy and feed information to the root leader. One of these spies managed to learn that the Rinnegan eyes inside the hospital's basements were mere decoys, a trap for a potential thief, while the real ones would be kept at the Hokage's office. So, after casting her illusion on the hospital, Akuma was instantly summoned to the Hokage Tower via special scroll, so she could help her men break into the building. Even if Jiraiya also increased the security of the tower, none of the guards could resist her brand of genjutsu, allowing her men to enter and take the eyes with them. And now, with their mission finally close to completion, a new root could raise, stronger than it ever was. No, a new Konoha would raise, one backed by the absolute power of the world's strongest bloodline limit. Her group arrived to a small clearing, where Danzo, surrounded by more of his root agents, was patiently waiting for them. Akuma and her team immediately bent to one knee and lowered their heads before their supreme leader. Report, Danzo said. The mission was a success, Danzo-sama, Akuma said, without even moving a muscle. Jiraiya was confident that his trick would fool us, but in the end, it was him who proved to be the biggest fool. Those are good news, Danzo said, his tone as stoic as ever. Now come on, give me the eyes. There isn't any time to waste. Akuma reached her hand under her cloak, pulling two sealed tubes filled with alcohol, the two Rinnegan eyes floating inside. She extended her hand towards Danzo, who was ready to accept the prized orbs. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. Suddenly, a volley of fireballs rained from above, creating fiery explosions upon impacting on the ground or the nearby trees. Many of the root ninjas were hurled away, Akuma among them, who lost the tubes she was holding. As the root agents quickly got back on their feet and scanned their surroundings to see the enemy. Soon, Itachi and Shisui Uchiha fell upon them, and started to cut down the root ninjas. Danzo, however, only had his mind on one thing. The Rinnegan. Where are they? He shouted, losing his cool, as he frantically looked around, ignoring his ninja under attack. There's one. A masked root ninja said, as he lunged for the tube, which was thankfully unbroken. Konoha Whirlwind. Said root ninja was unable to grab the priced item, as a green blur appeared out of nowhere, delivering him such a savage kick, he was sent flying against another tree. Said green blur turned out to be Rock Lee, who was later followed by his teammates and sensei, who proceeded to engage the root ninja. And as they fought, a black blur dashed over the tube, which disappeared from there. I have one of the Rinnegan. Itachi shouted, as he quickly pocketed the item. Well done, Itachi-san. Guy said, as he was trading punches with more root agents. Take that eye out of here. We can't afford Danzo to get his hands not even on one of them. Tenten urged. The Uchiha silently nodded, and body flickered out of there, while the others tried to fight the enemy at the same time they were looking for the other eye. Naturally, it was the ninja with the best eyesight who located it first. I found the other one. Niji thought, his Byakugan active, as he ran towards the other eye, which was partially covered by the grass. However, two other root ninjas read his intentions, and also rushed towards the same direction, having located the other Rinnegan. Niji was confident he could reach it first, and quickly use Heavenly Spin to deflect the inevitable attack. But suddenly, his foot sank into the ground, as if he had stepped into a quicksand or a pit of tar rather than solid ground, followed by the other foot. What the? Niji asked in shock, as he started to sink. I can't move. Tenten cried, as her feet also sank into the ground. What's going on? Lee asked as well, finding himself in the same predicament as his teammates. This was bad. Despite having the Byakugan active, Niji hadn't seen any of the enemy ninjas using any jutsu like that on them. Looking around, he saw that Guy and Shursui had fell prey to the same trap as well. And as he and his teammates tried to break free, the former branch house Hyuga was forced to watch impotently how the root ninjas reached the other tube and claimed it for them. Danzo-sama, the ninja who grabbed it, said, before tossing the tube at Danzo. The Warhawk expertly caught the tube, before storing it inside his robe. Danzo-sama, you and the others flee. I can take care of these people myself. Akuma claimed. Very well then. Thank you for your sacrifice, Akuma. I'll make sure it won't be forgotten, Danzo said, as he and his men disengaged, turned around, and run away, leaving the masked ninja named Akuma with Team Guy and Shursui. So, that was Jiraiya's plan, wasn't it? Akuma said in realization. Let us believe we have fooled him, so we could lead you to Danzo-sama. Well, too bad that white-haired fool didn't count with me. Akuma made a hand seal, and suddenly, giant serpentine dragons made of rock emerged from the ground, letting out distorted roars. Niji, however, noticed something unusual through his Byakugan. Wait, the way her chakra moved that didn't look like normal ninjutsu, he thought, as a realization dawned upon him. Wait, this isn't ninjutsu. Guy-sensei, Tenten, Lee. We're under a genjutsu. A genjutsu? Lee parroted. How can it be possible for you to be affected then, if you have your Byakugan active? There will be time for questions later, Lee. Now break the genjutsu. Guy ordered, as he brought his hands together in a hand seal, and sent a burst of chakra through his body. Release. Guy's action was echoed by his students, but much to their shock, the genjutsu didn't disappear. It's not working. Tenten said. My Sharingan can't dispel it either. Shursui cried. Of course it can't, Akuma said, her voice remaining stoic, but with an edge of boastfulness. My genjutsu can't be broken by normal means. And soon you will find that even if they're illusions, they can hurt you as badly as if they were ninjutsu. Perish. The stone dragons opened their jaws, and lunged at the defenseless Konoha ninja. However, before they could reach their prey, they were stopped by multiple vines emerging from underground, wrapping around them, and applying enough force to shatter them into pebbles. Team Guy and Shursui found themselves pushed upwards as the quicksand returned back to normal. What? Akuma asked in shock. How did you? You aren't the only one confused, Lee admitted, as he checked himself. It doesn't matter. Whoever helped us will have my gratitude, Tenten interceded. You're welcome then, Tenten. Everybody turned around to see Kurenai landing behind them. She then walked to the front, her eyes locked onto the root agent. How did you dispel her genjutsu? Shursui asked. Not even my Sharingan was able to see through it. Genjutsu of the Kurama clan can't be dispelled by normal means, not even by a Sharingan or Byakugan. You have countered it with genjutsu of your own, Kurenai explained. And fortunately, not only I'm good with genjutsu, but in very familiar with the Kurama clan bloodline. A genjutsu impossible to dispel? Man, that's so unfair. Shursui complained. Kurenai then shot the Uchiha Patriarch a massively annoyed glare, before Shursui realized he was in no position to complain about unfair abilities. Okay, I get it. Shutting up. You should go and make sure Danzo doesn't escape, or at least he doesn't escape with the Rinnegan, Kurenai advised the others. I stay here and take care of her. Very well, Kurenai-sensei. We shall return victorious, Niji replied. And Danzo will return without his head, Shursui added. Team Guy and Shursui quickly left the scene, running towards the west, hoping to catch Danzo and his cronies before it would be too late. Kurenai and Akuma remained in place, staring at each other. Take that mask off, Yakumo, Kurenai ordered. You don't need it. While she appeared to ignore her at first, Akuma did as she was told. And just like Kurenai expected, under the mask was Yakumo Kurama, the girl she trained a year before becoming her current team's Jonin sensei. She looked noticeably older, her eyes looked much duller than Kurenai remembered, lacking the glint of determination they used to have. A side effect of Danzo beating her personality and drive into fine powder. I knew it. I knew you were alive, Kurenai said, some raw emotion dripping into her voice. The girl I saw that day on our way to Ichiraku's, it was you, right? Yes, it was me. Or what you thought it was me, Yakumo replied, her voice keeping the same stoic tone. Not that it matters anymore. The girl you trained back in the day is no more. I figured as much, Kurenai said. I can imagine what Danzo did to you in order to become one of his puppets. But I refuse to believe that the hopeful and determined girl who wanted to be a ninja more than anything in the world isn't there, buried under layers of mental conditioning. This made Yakumo chuckle a bit. Heh, let's say that Danzo-sama made me realize that being a ninja wasn't as glamorous as I thought. Not that it matters. I know that my work is important for the safety of a lot of people. No, you got it completely backwards. Numerous lives have been lost because of Danzo. Kurenai insisted. Come on, Yakumo, I know you're a smart girl. You must realize that what Danzo and Root do is wrong. There's no such thing as right and wrong. Just Konoha and its enemies that need to be crushed. Yakumo replied, raising the tone of her voice, as her hands formed several hand seals. And for enemies to be crushed, we need to be stronger than them. Suddenly, the world around her changed. The grassy soil beneath her feet became a tatami floor, while the trees were walls made of wood. She was now inside a house, which was richly decorated in a very traditional way, with plenty of finely drawn pictures of forests, drivers, and mountains hanging from the walls, shoji doors, and tables and chairs of expensive wood. Kurenai recognized the place even if she had only been there a handful of times. It was Yakumo's home. Yakumo, listen to me. Danzo poisoned your mind. Kurenai implored. Danzo's way can only lead to ruin. Don't you see it? Danzo-sama's way is the only possible way, she insisted, her voice coming from every direction. Suddenly, fire started to burst all around Kurenai, quickly consuming the house and everything on it. The fire exponentially grew with each second, until everything, Kurenai included, were engulfed by it. I was born weak, but Danzo-sama made me strong. Yakumo cried. He'll make sure I won't be able to kill any more people who doesn't deserve it. Suddenly, a maelstrom burst among the flames, putting them out as it expanded. The maelstrom ceased, revealing Kunrei from within. That fire, it was you, right? Kurenai said in realization. Your powers went out of control and your parents paid for it. There was no response. Kurenai took Yakumo's silence as a confirmation. Then, girl appeared in front of her. Not as a young woman wearing rude apparel, but as the young girl Kurenai remembered, wearing a kimono. I thought that I had my powers under control, Yakumo's voice said, as tears started to stream from her eyes. But they weren't. I didn't know what was reality and what was illusion anymore. And my illusions made my parents' deaths a reality. Yakumo, what happened to your parents was a tragedy, but it was an accident. It wasn't your fault. Kurenai continued. Don't you see that Danzo is using you? He doesn't care about you. All he sees in you is a weapon. Ninjas are nothing but weapons. Yakumo said, as she stomped her foot. As she did, hundreds of kunai and shuriken appeared around Kurenai, floating still around her. And we need to make sure said weapons only hurt those who deserve it. The kunai and shuriken all dived at Kurenai, embedding into her flesh. However, the raven-haired woman burst into a mass of pink petals, scattering around the place. It didn't take Danzo much to bring you to his side, did he? Kurenai asked, now her voice coming from every direction. All your life was plagued the chaos caused by your powers, and Danzo offered order. Something you accepted, no matter the cost. He soused where you failed. Yakumo cried louder. Yes. I admit that maybe I could have trained you better. Maybe I underestimated how much you needed guidance, and how much harm your powers could do, Kurenai sorrowfully said. I even considered sealing your powers for good and be done with it. Maybe you should have done that, Yakumo replied. It would have been the best for everybody. No, that wouldn't have been a solution, Kurenai replied. The pink petals started to gather and took the form of a human, which turned into Kurenai again. Your powers are something magnificent, and shouldn't be suppressed. My powers gave me nothing but misery. Yakumo loudly cried. My powers killed my parents. My powers made me an agent of Root. How can you say that? Wait a minute, you don't want to work for Danzo? Kurenai asked in shock. Of course not, I hate it. You have no idea what he did to me in order to ensure I controlled my powers. What I'm forced to do when working under him. But I have no other options. Danzo-sama and Root is everything I have. Danzo-sama is the only one who can assure that I won't harm the wrong people again, she cried, her face turning red. No, that's not true. You still have me, Yakumo. Kurenai pleaded. And there are still plenty of people who would help you selflessly if they knew about you. Liar. Nobody came to help me when I needed it the most. Nobody helped me when I was trapped in my burning house, except Danzo's ninjas. Nobody came to my help when I begged for the Root instructors to stop. Yakumo said, as the now burned house started to disappear, leaving the two women inside a pitch-black void. I didn't know that you were alive. Had I known that you still lived, I wouldn't have rested until I had found you. Kurenai told her. She then took a deep breath, in order to calm a little. It's not too late, Yakumo. Come with me. There's still time to make your dreams true. No, I can't, Yakumo said, her voice trembling. He won't let me. Others tried to escape and it never ended well. All can I do is to obey him. I can protect you. The Hokage can protect you from Danzo. Kurenai insisted. Hell, we won't even need you to be protected from Danzo, since that man's career is pretty much over. His fate is either rot in a cell for the rest of his days, or death. I know, I can't do that, Yakumo said, shaking her head. I still need Danzo. I need him to live, no matter how much I hate that man personally. He's the only one who can make sure no other innocent like my parents dies by my hands. And how many innocents did you dash? Kurenai said, before she stopped herself. Suddenly, something that Yakumo said dawned upon her, and realized that she had the key to defeat Yakumo here and there. It was kind of a cheap shot, but it was her best bet. I'm sorry, Yakumo. Don't hate me for this. That's why I need to beat you. Yakumo said, and made a hand seal. Suddenly, a giant sword fell from the sky, cutting Kurenai in two. However, Kurenai's two halves burst into rose petals again, before reforming into two humanoid shapes. Said shapes then became two human beings, a man and a woman. Two people Yakumo knew too well. Mom, Dad, Yakumo said in a whisper. Do you think your parents would want you to do this? To work for a despicable man like Danzo? Kurenai said. Do you think they'll feel proud of you? They shut up. Yakumo screamed, as the image of her parents was shattered in a million crystal shards. You know nothing about them. You know nothing about me. That may be true, Kurenai admitted, as she reappeared before Yakumo. But I'm a mother. And I'd hate to see my daughter ending up like you did. Even more if her guilt over my death drove her to such fate. Yakumo stammered. Search your feelings, and ask yourself, is this what your parents would have wanted? Kurenai asked once again. They wanted you have a bright future, not to be the personal assassin of our old war hawk. But you can still make them proud. It's not too late. Yakumo wanted to retort, but words didn't come out of her mouth. Both she and Kurenai dissolved into nothingness, and the black void where they had been stopped existing. Back in the real world, the fight had ended. Both Kurenai and Yakumo were sitting on the grassy ground, the latter in the former's arms, crying her eyes out, and the older woman gently caressed her brown hair, while whispering words of reassurance. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Yakumo sobbed. Shoo, it's okay. Your nightmare is finally over, Kurenai whispered. Your nightmare is finally over. Karui, Omoi, and T traveled through the lush sea of trees that made most of the country that houses Konoha. Used as they were to the land of lightning's far rockier and steep terrain, the trio of Kumo ninjas did appreciate the beauty of the forests of the foreign land. Or as much as they could, given that the death of their sensei still clung heavy to their hearts. It's getting too dark, Karui said, as the sun started to set. I think we should set a camp and continue tomorrow morning. Both Omoi and T nodded. They set up a campfire in no time, and started to cook some fishes that they had caught earlier that day. As they cooked and ate their dinner, nobody said anything. The mood was gloom. Not being able to take the tension, the blonde decided to break the silence and strike a conversation. So, she awkwardly began. How long until we arrive Konoha? 2 or 3 days, I'd say, the red-headed girl replied. If go at a good pace. We've been going pretty slow. Yeah, well, I don't feel much like doing this, you know? Omoi replied, his body droopy. I don't feel like doing anything since Akatsuki got sensei. Reikage-sama gave us an important mission. We can't disappoint him, Karui told them. Besides, B-sensei would have wanted us to go on and become the best ninjas we can be even without him, T chimed in. He'd hate to see us all depressed and down. True, the only male of the group admitted, before chuckling sadly. Heh, if he was here, he'd try to cheer me with one of his songs, like he always used to do. Plus, by doing this we'll be avenging him, Karui added. There's no way the rest of the villages aren't going to hunt down Akatsuki with all the shit they did. They were the ones who turned Kiri into such a shithole, among other things. Let's hope you're right, Karui, Omoi replied. Because I can't imagine Konoha being willing to help us, given the history between our villages. That's in the past, T said, with a dismissive hand wave. We were also afraid when we went there for the Chunin exams. But in the end, nothing happened. In fact, most of the Konoha ninjas we met treated us rather kindly. That's right, Omoi said, smiling a little more, before his smile widened even more. And Karui got a boyfriend. The redhead's eyes were wide open with shock, as a faint blush started to spread through his skin. What the hell are you talking about? I have no boyfriend. No? T said, as she inched close towards her, sporting a smug smile. Then what about the letters you write him? Well, those letters, Karui began, stammering a little, as she averted her gaze. A scowl developed on her face as she turned back at the girl with the twin braids. Why the hell do I need to justify myself to you? Whoever I send letters to is none of your damn business. Now I'm seeing why you want us to get to Konoha so fast, Omoi said, chuckling a little louder than before. You really want to see your beloved Choji, don't you? Omoi and T continued to prod and laugh at their for the time unofficial leader, while the redhead became more heated by the minute, and tried to stop them from brining up their relationship with Choji, to little success. That is, until T suddenly stopped laughing, and remained completely still, almost in shock, like she just saw a ghost. T. Something wrong? Omoy asked. I'm sensing somebody. Ninjas getting closer to our position, T said, worried. They surrounded us. The three ninjas immediately jumped from their benches, standing back to back as Karui and Omoy drew their katanas, while T pulled out a kunai. Shit, we've been too noisy. Karui reprimanded both herself and her teammates. How many of them? I'm sensing. T started to count them in her head. About 16. Great, so, they outnumber us more than 5-1. Great, just fucking great. Karui said, greeting her teeth. Okay, this what we're going to do. When they show up, the three of us use the lightning flash in tandem to blind them, and then run as fast as we can. Got it? The other two silently nodded. T could sense how the enemy got closer. As they did, both Koi and Omoy started to notice them as well. A shadow quickly passing through the trees. A bush briefly rustled. The sound of a little branch snapped in two. Beads of sweat started to run down their heads the more seconds passed, which felt like an eternity. That's it, until two ninjas appeared before them. Now! Karui shouted. Lightning release, lightning flash. The three Kumo ninja started to glow with a bright, intense white light. Anybody unfortunate enough to be looking in their direction would feel like looking directly into the sound. Cries of agony filled the air as the enemy ninjas instinctively covered their eyes with their hands. Come on, go, go, go. Karui urged, as she started to run in a random direction, with Omoy and T behind her. Unfortunately for the redhead, neither she nor her teammates went too far, as they found themselves trapped inside a tornado of sand. What the hell? What kind of jutsu is this? T asked, looking around. Sorry, but I will be the one asking the questions here, a stoic but powerful voice said, as another ninja appeared before them. A boy with spiky red hair and black rings around his eyes. Starting with what a trio of Kumo ninjas are doing so far away from home. While Kurenai fought Yakumo, and most importantly, brought her back to the side of good, Team Guy and Shursui Uchiha continued the chase of Danzo and his remaining goons. Niji was tracking their prey with his Byakugan, and according to him, they were getting closer to them with each second. It seems that Danzo's old age is something he can't ignore, not even with Hashirama's cells giving him a boost, the former branch house Hyuga mused. Even with the head start, he has no chances of running away from us. Niji, how much distance? Guy asked. About 250 meters. We shortened the gap by a few meters with each passing second. Guy seemed to ponder what Niji said, before silently reaching a decision. It would be better to catch Danzo as soon as possible. He might have more reinforcements waiting for him further into the forest, Guy decided, before looking at Lee. Lee, you and I are going to cut his escape. Niji, 10-10, Shursui-san, get ready to fight them once they turn around. The other three ninja nodded. Shursui's eyes gleamed with anticipation. Nobody will save you this time, Danzo, Shursui thought. He could feel his blood boiling with anger, and tried to keep that anger in check until he could channel it to fight. Your karmic punishment awaits. Lee, it's up to us to make sure that miscreant doesn't get away. Guy boomed. Let's rush ahead and cut his escape. Understood, Guy-sensei, the green-clad boy said, as both he and his master got ready. Gate of opening, open. A burst of wind blew from Guy and Lee's bodies as master and student opened the first gate, releasing a wave of chakra through their bodies. With their enhanced capabilities, they shot forward like a pair of green-clad rockets. And in less than 10 seconds, Niji saw how his sensei and teammate completely bridged the gap between them and the root group, running so fast they were almost flying, before falling on top of them and engaging them in combat. Danzo wanted to continue fleeing and leave his remaining troops to deal with the pair of bull-haired ninjas. However, they had already anticipated this, and while Guy engaged Danzo himself, Lee would keep the rest of the ninjas at bay to the best of their ability. And since they were no longer fleeing, it took the rest of the Konoha ninjas almost no time to reach them as well. Guys, can you provide me some cover? Shursui asked, as he impatiently unsheathed his tanto. I have a fight with Danzo pending to complete. Both Niji and Tenten nodded, being more than aware of Shursui's intense grudge against the root leader. We shall focus on dealing with his minions first, so we all can focus on Danzo and make sure he doesn't escape this time, Tenten said, as she unfolded her collapsible chakra bow. She tensed the chakra string as long as her eyes saw the enemy fighting against Lee. Precision arrow wave. Vacuum blade palm. Tenten let loose a chakra arrow that quickly split into smaller arrows, while Niji thrust his palm forward, releasing a vacuum blade that flew alongside the arrows, cutting leaves and branches in its path. Shursui closely dashed behind the combination attack. Already expecting it, Lee quickly noticed the attack, and kicked a root ninja he was fighting against towards it, before jumping away. On top of that unlucky ninja, Tenten and Niji's combined attack also caught more than half of Danzo's goons. Danzo! Shursui screamed, as he dashed towards his hated enemy. Danzo, who was keeping Guy at bay with his wood release, noticed the Uchiha coming at him like an ebon missile, and quickly made several hand seals. Wind release, vacuum serial waves. Danzo exhaled several blades of wind at Shursui, which cut multiple tree branches in their way, resulting in a small storm of leaves. The Uchiha's Sharingan, however, was able to predict the trajectories of the wind attack, and leaping from one branch to another, skillfully dodged all of them. And using his belt momentum, Shursui dashed past Danzo, landing on a tree branch behind him, making sure to cut his advance. Your path ends here, Danzo, Shursui seethed, as his hands flew through hand seals. Fire release, meltdown. Shursui breathed a fireball that continuously expanded. Danzo's own Sharingan scanned the surroundings in an attempt to find an escape route, but the only one he found was to drop to the ground level, where he'll be more vulnerable. He dodged, meaning that he can't use his Izanagi. Or he won't sacrifice the only Sharingan he still has, Shursui deduced. Guy, let's double-team him. He can't use his Izanagi. Understood, Shursui-san. Guy agreed, as the green-clad Jonin and the Uchiha landed in front and behind Danzo, respectively, and quickly adopted fighting stances. Anger and frustration were building inside Danzo, and thus found himself unable to keep his stoic facade, as his facial expression reflected his feelings. This seemed to amuse Shursui. What, aren't you supposed to be as cold as a statue? Shursui said, smirking confidently. Guess that even you know that this is the end. Without Izanagi, you can't hope to get out of here alive. While I admit that Izanagi is an useful ability, it's far from my only trick. I still have my skill, experience, and would release, Danzo said, regaining some of his calmness. Then, his Sharingan took a different shape, one of a three-bladed shuriken, with a small dot between each blade. Not to mention, I still have Fugaku Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan. Game tensed up upon hearing this. Shursui-san. What does Fukagu Uchiha Saiken do? I have no idea. Shursui replied, just as unnerved. Be ready for anything. Then let me show you the power of Fugaku Uchiha's eye. I was unable to use it longest as Izanagi, but now I have no such problem, Danzo said, as he made a hand seal. His lone Sharingan took the shape of a three-bladed shuriken, with a dot in each space between the blades. And a larger one at the middle. Okuninushi. A burst of chakra came from Danzo, and the air around him looked distorted. Grabbing a kunai, Danzo dashed at Shursui, leaving a trail of negative-colored afterimages after him, much to Shursui and Guy's confusion. Shursui easily parried Danzo's blow, and was ready to counter, when the afterimages attacked as well. Thanks to his speed, he was allowed to block all of their swings, but while doing so, not only he was pushed backwards, but allowed Danzo to fall back and prepare a counterattack. Wind release, vacuum bullets. You're wide open, Guy shouted as he rushed at Danzo from behind, ready to deliver a roundhouse kick. Konoha Great Whirlwind. Danzo and some of his afterimages fired a barrage of wind bullets at Shisui, while the rest of his afterimages fired backwards, towards the unsuspecting Guy. While Shisui used a fire jutsu to propel himself upwards, avoiding the barrage of vacuum missiles, Guy was in no position to dodge. One of the bullets hit Guy in the sole of his shoe, producing an explosion of wind that hurled the green-clad Jonin backwards. However, Guy was able to land on his feet on the trunk of a tree, and used his momentum to propel himself back at Danzo. "You won't catch me off guard this time," Guy said, facing his elbow at Danzo. Konoha Rock Crusher. Danzo turned around, and sent one of his afterimages after Guy. The afterimage tried to block the elbow strike, but the force it carried was too strong, and was shattered into nothingness. Still, it cost Guy much of his momentum, allowing the real Danzo to safely block the attack, before delivering a devastating counterattack with his afterimages. "For a ninja that relies exclusively on taijutsu, you're quite strong, Mato Guy," Danzo began, as he pushed Guy backwards with a barrage of punches and kicks. "But against this power, mere taijutsu is no rival. Of course you'd have such an unyouthful view on power and strength," Guy replied, as he tried to push Danzo and his afterimages back. "You've got your power by stealing it from other people. There's no point in having power if you didn't work to rightfully earn it. Power is power, no matter how you acquire it," Danzo calmly said, as he made his afterimages to surround Guy, before they lunged at them from different directions. Gate of Healing, open. Guy's powerful chakra started to blow wind in every direction, but that didn't deter Danzo. However, the next thing would. Konoha Earthbreaker. Guy focused as much chakra into his fist as possible, before smashing it against the ground, opening a large crater, and creating a powerful shockwave that pushed Danzo backwards and destroyed his afterimages. However, they reappeared besides the original a few moments later. "As much as it pains me to admit it, Danzo has a point, that jutsu is powerful," Guy thought, as he adopted a defensive stance. "They're like shadow clones that follow Danzo and echo his actions, but he can command them to do something else. And while they're easy to destroy, they respawn almost instantly. Still, I can't give up. I'm confident that if I keep fighting, between Shisui-san and I will find a way to overcome that jutsu." That moment, Shisui landed beside Guy, his trusty tanto in his hand. "Shisui, you fought against Danzo before," Guy spoke. "Any idea on what can we do to beat him?" "We should turn this into a war of attrition," Shisui suggested. "Despite having Hashirama's cells, Danzo is still an old man. Both you and I have much more stamina than him. If we can overcome his jutsu, then let's wait until he tires out. All Mangekyo Sharingan jutsu comes with a high chakra cost, and I doubt that one's an exception. Not a strategy to my liking, but if there's nothing better, I'll have to swallow my pride and bow to your experience," Guy admitted. "You aren't going to beat me with that trick again, Shisui," Danzo said, confident. "I know what my weaknesses are, and how to cover them. And once I'm done with you two, your eye will be as entertaining as it was to watch you lot fight," a new voice said out of nowhere. "I think it's about time to get back what it's rightfully mine." That voice, the leader of Root, said. The three ninja quickly looked around, trying to find the hidden enemy. Then, a spiraling vortex formed a few meters from Danzo. And from said vortex, Obito Uchiha emerged. His mouth was curved in a confident smile. "You again," Danzo seethed, as he moved his body to face the Akatsuki, forgetting about Guy and Shisui for a moment. "The hell?" Shisui asked, as his eyes shifted back and forth between Danzo and Obito, unsure on whom he should focus. "We meet again, Danzo," Obito said with the same informality one would address a longtime friend. "Funny how things turn out to be, huh? Many years ago, you took Shisui's eye before I took it away from you. Now, history repeats again with the Rinnegan." Danzo, Guy called the elder, his tone dead serious. Danzo quickly turned at him, the tension on his face constant. Despite our current enmity, Obito and Akatsuki are our mutual enemies. Akatsuki can't take the Rinnegan back. If we join forces, we can defeat him easily. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I agree with Guy, Shursui admitted, looking as if those words hurt him as badly as being branded with a burning iron. There's nothing more than I want that cut that ugly head of yours from the rest of your body. But this is far more important than my revenge. Ah, isn't it beautiful, seeing death-sworn enemies not even 5 seconds ago joining forces to fight an even bigger threat? Obito mockingly said, laughing a little. However, all trace of joviality disappeared after that. Too bad such thing isn't going to happen again. Danzo, the time has come for the 9 to become 1. For a reason neither Guy nor Shursui were able to understand, those words made Danzo stagger as if he had been hit with a hammer in the face. Obito then extended his hand as he walked towards Danzo. Now, Danzo, would you kindly give me the Rinnegan? Obito asked. Then, much to Guy and Shursui's shock, Danzo pulled the sealed tube from within his robe, and wordlessly handed it to the Akatsuki, who quickly stored inside the Kamui dimension. Just one? Oh well, guess that'll have to work, Obito said, displeased, but resigned to do what he had been given. Danzo. What the hell? Shursui asked, his fury resurfacing twice as strong. You fucking traitor. You were always with Akatsuki from the very beginning. Oh, come on, don't blame poor Danzo, Obito said, as he patted the elder's shoulder a couple times. After all, you should know better than anybody how hard it is to fight Kodoama Tsukumi, right? Both Guy and Shursui opened their eyes wide in shock. What did you say? Shursui asked. It was him now who was staggering upon hearing Obito's words. You heard me. I have Danzo under my control. He has been like that for quite a few years, actually, Obito explained. I might not have your eye anymore thanks to my lovely Rin, but the effect still lasts even if I no longer possess the eye. But that, Guy began, trying to fight the shock. How none of us noticed. How it is possible that. You see, when I first acquired Shursui's eye, I knew I had to put a high-rank Konoha ninja under my control. The question was who? The Hokage? The Jonin commander? The ANBU commander? Obito asked, before shaking his head. No, I couldn't do that. I already tried that with Yagura, and look how well it worked. But Danzo, the leader of a division that officially doesn't exist? He was perfect. Plus, I knew Danzo was dealing with Orochimaru, so I could use him to spy on that snake as well. You see, if you set a tree on fire, people will see it and rush to put the flames out. But if you quietly poison its roots, nobody will notice until the rot becomes visible. And by then, it's too late. So that's why Danzo was feeding you information on the Jinchuriki, right? Shursui asked, his voice full of spite. He was your puppet all along. More or less, Obito admitted with a shrug. You see, I needed to leave Danzo with some free will, or else I'd have another Yagura in my hands. That's why I implanted an idea inside his mind in order to make him think that letting Akatsuki gather all other tailed beasts in a single place was the way to go. It was so subtle, nobody noticed it wasn't his idea at all, not even when he shared it with anybody else. Right, Shursui? The Uchiha patriarch gritted his teeth. When Danzo told him about his plans in their previous battle, at no point Shursui considered that the plan may not be Danzo's. And, of course, I also implanted a mental trigger that would make him completely subservient to me when the time was right, Obito finished his explanation. He then turned at Danzo, his eyes looking the elder in fake pity. And now that you gave me the Rinnegan and can't use you as a spy anymore, I have no more use for you. Danzo, execute the Black Knight Protocol. Those words seemed to have the same effect as the ones that put him under Obito's control. Guy and Shursui quickly prepared for the worst. While Obito disappeared inside his spiraling vortex, Danzo ripped his robe apart, leaving his chest exposed. 5 black symbols appeared on it, one in the center, the other 4 around it in an X pattern. Sealing art, reverse tetragram sealing. Then, the 5 seals moved towards the center, merging into a pitch-black sphere which started to expand. Without needing to trade words, both Guy and Shursui knew that they had to put as much distance from Danzo as fast as possible. Once the sphere reached the size of a house, it compressed, absorbing everything inside it into Danzo's body. Tree branches, leaves, rocks, soil, even small animals and insects were violently sucked in, and a second later, all that mass was burst in a massive explosion, putting an end to Danzo's long and sordid life. A few hours later, undisclosed location inside an underground chamber, Zetsu waited patiently. Not long ago, he and his boss were preparing the heist of the Rinnegan, when one of the white Zetsu clones told them that Danzo managed to steal them first. Rather than being angry, Obito smiled, much to the vegetable being's confusion. "This is excellent," the Uchiha had said. "It seems that fortune smiles upon us once again. Wait here, Zetsu, I'll be returning shortly." That was 2 hours ago. What the Uchiha was planning to do, Zetsu had no idea. However, his wait came to an end when the familiar spiraling vortex formed before him, and Obito emerged from it, his expression that of triumph. So, the black half began. "Do you have the Rinnegan?" Obito reached under his robe, revealing the sealed tube with a single Rinnegan floating inside it. Zetsu wasn't convinced. "Just one?" the white half asked. "Sadly, I was unable to acquire both," Obito said, as he tossed the tube at his inhuman minion, who easily caught it with one hand. "Fortunately, one Rinnegan is enough to complete the last phase of our plan. Now, time to work. I want you to remove my Byakugan and replace it with that Rinnegan. Konoha has the other one, and I need to bond with the demonic statue before any Konoha ninja does it first." "Understood, boss. I'll prepare the operation room at once," the white half said, before sinking into the ground. That night, Hokage's tower, after successfully recovering the Rinnegan, Jiraiya kept the sealed tube with him rather than put it on a safe box again, despite the threat of being stolen was pretty low now. Wasting no time, he had his ANBU gather Tsunade, Hiruzen, Shizun, Itachi, Shursui, Konan, Takuya, and Nori for an urgent meeting in the council room. 10 minutes later, all of those he had summoned were in the room, as well as several ANBU for added security. Naturally, most eyes were on Konan. The ex-Akatsuki member was now wearing a collar with sealing patterns around her neck, on top of the chakra-suppressing manacles. If Jiraiya, Tsunade, or Naruto made a single-hand seal, the collar would release an electric discharge, shocking her into submission. Fortunately, the blue-haired woman accepted the security measure without raising a fuss. "Thank you for coming so swiftly, especially at such late hour," Jiraiya said, as he pulled the sealed tube with the Rinnegan on it, and placed it on the table. "I think you can figure out why I summoned all of you here. We need to discuss what are we going to do with this eye." "That eye is dangerous," Takuya spoke up. "Hokage-sama, you fought against pain, and experienced firsthand what kind of power he had. If this eye falls into the wrong hands, it could be catastrophic." Sadly, it already fell into wrong hands, Takuya-san, Shizun interceded. "Obito managed to steal another one. We'll need this eye to match his power." "I agree with Shizun-san," Nori said, as she shot an apologetic look towards her father. "You will need the eye if you want to release the trap-tailed beasts inside the statue," Konan interceded. "Destroying the eye is not an option, at least not now." "I figured as much as well," Hiruzen stated, as he stroked his beard. "The question is, who's going to wield that eye? If it's anything like the Sharingan, then only a selected few will be able to tap into its powers without any drawbacks." "Hiruzen-sama is right," Nori said, nodding. "Only a descendant of the Sage of the Six Paths who possess at least one half of Six Paths chakra can wield the power of the Rinnegan. That means only an Uchiha, Uzumaki, or Senju can do it, Takuya helpfully added, before looking around. Fortunately, we have plenty of suitable ninja from those three clans. So, the ones who can use that eye are Tsunade-sama, Naruto-kun, Hagane-kun, Kaide-chan, Sasuke-kun, Itachi, Shursui add Karen, Shizen recounted. She left her own children out for obvious reasons. I'd leave Hagane and Kaida out, Jiraiya interceded. They're way too young for such a responsibility. Not to mention that their bloodlines already brought them no small amount of misfortune. I think either Itachi or myself would be the best suited for it, Shursui began. After all, we both wield the Mangekyo Sharingan and have experience with dash. He was interrupted by Tsunade slamming her hand onto the table, startled both him and everybody else. Like hell I'm going to let the eye of a god in the hands of a kid. Tsunade energically protested. As the most veteran ninja, as well as having both Senju and Uzumaki blood, I'm the best suited for the role. Kid. But I'm 27-inch, Shursui weakly protested. Shizen gently patted his shoulder in consolation. Let it go, Shursui, Itachi interceded. Your arguments are sound, but I think it's better if we let somebody else get the eye. The Uchiha clan hasn't recovered in the eye of the public completely, and people might grow suspicious if one of us were to acquire the Rinnegan. I guess so, the older Uchiha admitted. So, all in favor for the Rinnegan going to Tsunade? Hiruzen asked. Everybody raised their hands in approbation. Even Conan. This didn't go unnoticed, and got a few odd stares in her direction. I don't know if my vote really counts, but I do think that Tsunade-sama is the best candidate to use the Rinnegan, Conan stated. It's decided then. Let's do this as soon as we can. Shizen, take Tsunade to the hospital, and begin the transplant, Jiraiya told the black-haired medic. Shizen nodded, and both she and her master got up from their chairs and left the room, not before taking the sealed tube still on the table. Wordlessly, several ANBU followed them. I will work on a mask with protective seals to ensure nobody will be able to steal the Rinnegan from Tsunade. Conan? Yes, Sensei, the brunette asked. Of all of us here, you're the one most familiar with the Rinnegan and its abilities, Jiraiya began. Do you think that you can train Tsunade in order to master the Rinnegan? Even if I never experienced such power myself, I saw Nagato using it countless times. I shall teach Tsunade-sama to the best of my ability, Conan stated. Excellent. Then, I think we can conclude this meeting. Hope we can end this crisis soon without having to spill more blood. Next morning, torture and interrogation. Underground floor. Yakumo Kurama sat alone on a bench inside one of the cells under Konoha's torture and interrogation department. While she wasn't restrained, she was wearing a pair of metal bracers with chakra suppression seals on them, as well as a collar with seals that could give her an electric shock if she did anything her captors would deem dangerous or even suspicious. Despite the name, they had assured her that she would be neither tortured nor interrogated, mostly because what was left of her former boss, Danzo, could be stored inside a matchbox. She had mixed feelings over such news. On one side, she was afraid that without Danzo to reign in the darkest parts of her power, nothing would stop another accident like the one which claimed her parents' lives from happening again. On the other hand, she felt relieved that that horrible man wouldn't control her life anymore. Kurenai had promised Yakumo that together they'd find a solution to her problem that didn't involve Danzo's draconian measures. She wasn't sure if the raven-haired woman could fulfill such promise, but for everybody's sake, she had to let her try at the very least. She was snapped from her thoughts when she heard the sound of steps coming closer. A few seconds later, an ANBU appeared, followed by Kurenai. The ANBU opened the door of her cell, letting the raven-haired woman in. She sat beside the brown-haired girl as the ANBU locked the door once again. They spent a long moment in silence, without even making eye contact, until Kurenai decided to open her mouth. So, Kurenai began, trying to shake off the awkwardness of the moment, as she rubbed her bare arm. How are you? I hope they aren't treating you too bad. Don't worry, compared to what my life used to be under Danzo-sama, this is a spa, Yakumo softly replied. Kurenai frowned a little. Despite the fact that he was dead, and that Yakumo never liked the man, she still used a respectful honorific to address him. Hopefully she could be able to correct that soon. Even then, I spoke with Anko, and we expect that you'll be out here soon, even if under probation, Kurenai reassured her, as she placed a comforting hand on the younger girl's shoulder. Hokage-sama knows that no root agent was working under Danzo by their own volition, and with him dead there's no risk of root being rebuilt. I see, he said, not looking all that excited of being free. Truth be told, she has pretty much forgotten what it meant to be free. What's going to be of me once I'm free? I have nowhere to go. I have no family anymore, and I can't return to root. Kurenai smiled at her. You'll be living with us. Hirozen-sama gave me permission to let you live in the Sarutobi estate. I already got your room ready. Really? Yakumo asked. And is everybody else okay with that? Aren't they afraid of letting a former root agent near them or their children? Especially since I helped Danzo-sama kidnap a few. Kurenai frowned a little, as she squeezed Yakumo's shoulder a little tighter to drive her point further. Listen, Danzo's sins are only Danzo's, not yours, Kurenai insisted. All of his unwilling accomplices, you included, deserve a second chance. And I have faith that you'll make good of that chance. Yakumo began, before his mouth curved into a small smile. Thank you, Kurenai-sensei. I promise I will make the best out of this opportunity. Kurenai smiled back as well. Downtown Konoha the day after the invasion and subsequent clash with Root, Jiraiya finally put in motion Konoha's reconstruction. Letters were sent to other villages telling them about what happened and asking for help. Countless D-rank missions were issued in order to help with the reparation efforts. There were two things that greatly sped the reconstruction. One were the chakra golems, which proved to be an incredibly useful asset, as they could be used to remove and carry rocks, pieces of concrete, and debris away, while the humans focused on something else. The second was a trio of ninjas that had an unique ability that was thought to be lost forever. Wood release, 4-pillar house jutsu. From the debris, a large, 2-story house made of wood emerged. It had glassless windows, several balconies, and a couple doors. Konoha's emblem was carved in the front. Even if it lacked glass, plumbing, and electricity, it was completely habitable. Upon seeing the house emerge, people watching the display let out wild cheers. Ugh, Kaida said, as she fell to her knees, trying to regain her breath. I'm the closest thing Konoha has to a princess. Why I'm doing these handicrafts? Because we're the only ones who have the power to do it, Tenzo replied, having erecting another house himself. Yes, you should take joy in knowing that your power will speed Konoha's recovery quite a lot, Rin replied, having raised another house as well. Come on, we're almost done with this block. Can't we take a little rest? I'm winded. Kaida whined. Come on, just a little more, Tenzo insisted. I know firsthand this takes a lot from you, but the people of Konoha depends on us. Besides, it's a princess' job to take care of her subjects, right? Rin asked with a cheeky grin. Kaida merely narrowed her eyes at her in anger. Plus, for all you talk about being the first Hokage's great-granddaughter, you could try to emulate him a little more, Tenzo continued. Did you know that he used this jutsu to create almost 100 houses in one go? Kaida opened her eyes widely. She was aware that Hashirama used wood release to create the initial settlement that would become Konoha, but he couldn't imagine how he could build so many houses at once, when a single house left the white-haired girl drained. Ah, really? She asked. Tenzo nodded in confirmation. You can ask your mother if you don't believe me. Now, you wouldn't want people to hold you as some sort of a pale imitation of Hashirama, would you? Kaida merely shook her head wordlessly. Then let's continue. Then I'll treat you to a snack. Training ground 1, let's do it, Tsunade-sama, Conan stated. Remember, think of the statue. Tsunade nodded, bit her thumb, and formed 5 hand seals. Training Ground 1 was a place not many ninjas had the chance to see. While it had nothing significant or extraordinary that made it stand out from the rest of the training fields, being just your standard grassy terrain with a few cluster of trees and some small lakes, such place was the reigning Hokage's training grounds. Which didn't get much use since the reigning Hokages don't have that much spare time to train as much as any other ninja would. Still, the fact that Jiraiya had a training ground all to himself and whoever he decides to bring with him was something he was being thankful for given the current circumstances. Namely, the fact that they had a place to train Tsunade away from prying eyes. The transplant had been a success, as expected. However, it was advised for Tsunade to rest a few hours before using the Rinnegan, so her body could familiarize with this new power. For protection, Jiraiya created an eye patch with multiple protective sealing patterns that made sure nothing other than S-rank jutsu could break it. Due lack of space for the seals, the actual patch pretty much covered Tsunade's left side of her face from the nose up. And now, deciding that she had rested enough, Tsunade was going to use the Rinnegan for the first time since her transplant, in order to summon and bind herself to the demonic statue. Summoning Jutsu. Tsunade slammed her palm into the ground, producing a massive burst of smoke, accompanied by a powerful wind blowing in every direction. Jiraiya held his breath. Did she? But when the smoke dispelled, there was nothing there. Tsunade scowled, Jiraiya muttered a profanity, and Conan merely sighed. We were too late. Obito must have bonded with the statue already, Conan said, dejected. And as long as he has the statue and all the beasts inside it, he will be a threat to the world. In that case, I think it's about time we changed strategies, Tsunade stated, punching her palm. So far, we only reacted to Akatsuki's movements. This time, we should track them down and pound them into dust. That's a good idea, if only we knew any of their general HQ, Jiraiya said, before looking at the bluenet. Conan? Our main base used to be Amigakure, thought that was mostly Nagato and I, Conan said. We had multiple lairs hidden across the elemental nations, mostly in small countries without ninja villages, or very small villages, though they were more meeting points where the extractions took place, rather than actual bases. With how things are now, the leadership of Akatsuki falls upon Obito. And I'm 100% sure Obito has assets of his own that neither me nor Nagato were aware of. Finding his base of operations isn't going to be an easy task. If you give me information on Akatsuki in general, my spies can make an educated guess on where Obito could have his base, Jiraiya said. In the meanwhile, I think you should begin Tsunadeheim's training. Understood. Are you ready to begin, Tsunade-sama? Conan asked. You can bet I am. We've wasted enough time already. Show me what I can do with this fancy eye, Tsunade said. Sakura was walking down the street as she headed towards her destination. Unlike a good chunk of Konoha, the Pinkette could appreciate that the damage to the buildings in this zone were minimal. She was happy for the people living there. She also remembered that, during the Uchiha insurrection, her street had been among those ignored by the perpetrators, given that it was on a mostly civilian zone. She wasn't this lucky now, given that Akatsuki's attack was more indiscriminate. Thankfully, her parents were evacuated to the shelters long before their house was brought down by the ensuing battles. Guess it only makes sense that you're the lucky one now, Ino, Sakura said to herself, as she reached her destination, the Yamanaka flower shop. Given that the last time you lost something so precious. Sakura opened the door and greeted the people inside, expecting to see Ino, or at least her mother, in the counter. Good morning. Sakura cheerfully said. Good morning, Sakura-san. It's nice to see you. However, it wasn't either Ino nor her mother who returned the greeting, but a male voice. A voice she recognized, and filled her with irritation. It took the Pinkette a few seconds to realize that Sai was in front of her, wearing a white apron with yellow flowers over his ninja gear, wiping the floor with a broom he was holding. After the momentary lapse, Sakura's ninja instincts kicked in as she quickly reached for a kunai and tackled Sai, slamming the pale boy into a wall, causing a small tremor. You! What the hell are you doing here? How did you escape? You're going to kill Ino because she busted both you and your organization, don't you? The heated Kunoichi demanded. Actually, what was that noise? Ino asked as she entered the store. Sai, what are you, SAI? You were lucky I caught this guy sneaking inside your store, Ino, Sakura proudly said, tightening her grip. I'm sure he was planning to kill you. What? No. Sakura, release him at once. Ino demanded as she rushed towards the two. Sai is working here. Sakura felt as if somebody splashed her face with cold water. Her grip lessened a little. What? Sakura repeated. Upon seeing Ino's glare, Sakura complied and released the former root agent, who fell down on his butt. Okay, I think I need to hear some explanation as for why this scumbag is working here. Sai isn't a scumbag, Ino said, as she helped the black-haired ninja back on his feet. And he's working here as a part of his rehabilitation. Sakura asked. See, most of Danzo's agents didn't work for him willingly, Ino began to explain. Many of them, such as Sai, were subject to heavy mental conditioning, and thus they can't be made responsible for their actions. So Hokage-sama started a program to decondition them, so they can rejoin Konoha's proper ninja ranks, or become civilians if they wish so. I volunteered my clan to take care of Sai for the time being. That's so nice of you, Sakura said. But aren't you worried that Sai might turn on you, or may do something? Ino-san has nothing to worry about, Sai chimed in, as he lowered the neck of his shirt, revealing a collar with small sealing patterns inscribed on it. If I want to do something inappropriate, Ino-san only needs to make a hand seal, and this collar will immobilize me via electric shock. Though I'm pretty sure we won't need to resort to that, Ino added, laughing a bit awkwardly as she patted Sai in the shoulder. Oh, I see. Sakura said, as a feeling of guilt started to creep on her back for assuming the worst and assaulting Sai like that. I'm sorry for attacking you, Sai. I got a little carried away. Apologies accepted, Pinky, Sai said, smiling at her. Sakura raised an eyebrow. Pinky? Do you find that nickname inappropriate as well? Sai asked, his smile lessening a little, and his body tensing up. We still need to work on your nicknames, but it's an improvement, Ino interceded, before things could escalate any further. So, wanna go to somewhere and have a coffee, Sakura? Yeah, I was wondering if you were free to hang out a little, Sakura said. I have some free time. Sure. I can leave Sai in charge, Ino said, as she and the Pinkette left the store, before turning at Sai one last time. Be on your best behavior, okay? Don't worry, I'll be. Sasuke was getting ready to leave his home for some routine training on his own when somebody knocked the door. That was weird. The only ones who ever visited the Uchiha brothers were Shizune and Shisui, and Itachi decided to give them a copy of the apartment's keys so they could drop by whenever they wanted. Still, Sasuke decided to check who it was. Opening the door, he saw much to his confusion a young woman, who appeared to be a Hyuga, if her eyes were any indication, dressed like a maid, holding what appeared to be a box wrapped in a piece of cloth. Yes? Sasuke asked, sounding a little suspicious. May I help you? Hello. My name is Natsu Hyuga, the woman said, sounding a little nervous. You must be Sasuke Uchiha, right? Yes, I'm Sasuke, the Uchiha confirmed. Do you have any business to do with me or? Actually, it was your brother I was looking for, the Hyuga girl replied. Is he here? Sasuke rose his eyebrow, part confused, part suspicious. What did a Hyuga wanted to do with his brother? Then again, Itachi was old enough to fend for himself. Brother! Sasuke yelled, as he walked back into the house, leaving the door open. Natsu interpreted it as being invited in, so he followed the younger Uchiha. There's somebody here asking for you. The sound of steps could be heard, and Itachi walked out of a nearby hallway. She looked at the newcomer. Ah, hello, Itachi said, as he walked towards the young woman, clearly recognizing her. You were among that group of Hyuga I helped during the Akatsuki attack, right? Your name was Natsu. The Hyuga smiled tenderly. Yes, that's me, she confirmed, before she handed the wrapped box at Itachi. I wanted to give you this as a sign of appreciation for helping us. If it wasn't for you, Kami knows how many Hyugas would have died then and there. I see, Itachi said, accepting the wrapped box. I was only doing my duty. Thank you for the gift. It's very considerate on your part. Itachi's line was followed by an awkward silence, the three of them standing there, not knowing what to say or what to do, and Natsu growing more restless, as she fidgeted constantly, shifting from one foot to another. Well, that's all I wanted to say. I hope you enjoy my gift, Natsu said, making a polite bow, before exiting the Uchiha's apartment. Once the brothers were again alone, Sasuke scowled at Itachi. Are you going to tell me what was that about? Sasuke asked. It isn't obvious. Itachi replied, smiling a little. I helped her and her clansmen during the invasion, and she decided to give me a gift in return. Aren't you going to open it? Sasuke asked. Maybe later. Weren't you going to train? Itachi replied, as he turned around and walked towards his room. TCH, whatever, the youngest Uchiha scoffed, before leaving the house. Training Ground 25. Thankfully, Naruto was released from the hospital the next morning after he was admitted. One of the very first things he did was to gather once again all the sage apprentices, and resumed their training. Naruto was sure that, had all the trainees were sages by the time Akatsuki attacked, the damage to the village would have been much smaller. Fortunately, they covered most of the training before such attack happened. And when they resumed it, all of them were pretty close to becoming sages themselves. Under Naruto and Fukasaku's watchful eyes, they saw how during the next 2 days all the trainees mastered the art of senjutsu, the last day not even needing to use the anti-senjutsu staff. Like it happened with Naruto, the sage trainees developed colored marks around their eyes. Hinata had purple marks around her eyes that went down half her cheeks. Hanabi's were similar, but they were teal-colored instead. Fu's marks had the shape of a winged insect, similar to a butterfly, the same color as her mint hair. Shirsue's were black, shaped like hooks at corner of his eyes, with one pointing down and the other pointing up. Shizun's were pink, extending from her eyes down her cheeks, in a way similar to the marks of the Inuzuka, only wider. Karen's were as red as her hair, and had the shape of a spiral that started from her eyelids and continued into her cheeks. Asuma had thin red lines on the sides and under his eyes. Interesting, Fukasaku said, as he stood in front on Rin. Something's wrong, Pa? Naruto asked the elder toad. This girl's marks, the toad said. I already saw them before. Rin's marks were forest green, starting from the eyes and extending towards her ears. There was an additional round marking in her forehead with a dot on it. The Medicmine felt the urge to say something, but she didn't want to break her concentration. She didn't want to mess it up when she was so close to achieve it. Yes, those marks, I remember seeing them on Hashirama Senju's face, Fukasaku said. Is this girl related to him? In a way, you could say that, Naruto confirmed, shrugging a little. I see. I thought that Tsunade-chan and her tadpoles were his only living descendants, Fukasaku said, rubbing his goatee. He then continued to inspect the rest of the Konoha ninja, and one Taki Kunoichi, and review their progress. He nodded, seemingly content with what he saw. Okay, I think that's enough. Guys, open your eyes and stop gathering nature energy. Wait a few seconds so the nature energy properly mixes with your chakra. They did as they were told. As soon as the nature energy mixed with their chakra stabilized, they started to feel the more immediate effects of Sage Mode. Whoa! Shizun said in awe. I can sense all the people in Konoha. It's as if I was a sensor. Me too. Shursui replied, just as giddy. Coupled with the Sharingan, nobody is going to catch me off guard ever again. Hey, now that I think about it, can Sage Mode enhance the Sharingan in some way? I'm afraid I have no answer for that question, Fukasaku said with a shrug. For you're the first Uchiha who achieved Sage Mode. Really? Well, nice to be a pioneer at something, Shursui said with a nonchalant shrug. The more fun I'll have figuring out the answer. Okay, now it's about time you guys learn the power behind Sage Mode. Naruto cheerfully said, as he walked towards one of the many giant toad statues that he and Fukasaku had placed there. Rin, get over here. The brown-haired medic Nin did as she was told. What do you want me to do? She asked. I want you to lift this statue with all your might. Naruto said. Rin looked at the statue with her eyes wide open. It was easily 4 meters tall, and while she couldn't tell how much it weighed, she could guess it would be above 2 tons. Physical strength was never Rin's forte, and she doubted that even with Sage Mode, she could do what the blonde was asking her. Trust me, just try, Naruto said, his smile unwavering. You're going to be surprised. Wordlessly, Rin nodded, and crouched down, inserting her hands under the statue's bottom. Once she had a good grip of the statue, she tried to lift it with all her might, whoa. And much to her shock, her arms easily lifted the statue above her head. It was as if it was made of plasticine. Then, she let the statue fall, making a loud rumbling noise, as if to remind everybody its actual mass. Incredible. I can't believe I lifted something so heavy. Rin said, amazed, as she looked at her own hands. Bah, I could already do that before, Fu sneered with a dismissive hand wave. Then, her eyes opened wide as a realization dawned upon her. Wait, then does it mean? What about ninjutsu? It is enhanced by senjutsu as well? Hanabi asked. Before Naruto had the chance to ask, Hinata decided to do a test, and walked towards a nearby large rock, since she didn't want to risk breaking the toad statues. Vacuum palm. Hinata thrust her palm forward, and felt a huge force surging through her arm. However, rather than a vacuum shell or wave, Hinata's hand projected a large, lavender-colored spectral arm, which grew bigger as it was released forward. When the spectral hand crashed against the rock, the boulder was shattered in 1,000 shards and pebbles. The Hyuga clan head could do nothing but stare in disbelief at what she has just done. She stared at both hands in shock. Just what was that? She said, almost in a whisper. That was amazing. Hanabi loudly cheered, as she rushed towards her still dazed older sister. How did you do it? I have no idea, Hinata replied. I was trying to use the vacuum palm. Maybe it's an effect of mixing senjutsu with the tensigen? Hanabi guessed. I wouldn't know, but it's a possibility, Hinata said, as she rested her chin on her hand. Maybe we should talk with Nori-san and Takuya-san. They seem to know everything regarding the tensigen. As the Hyuga sisters continued their discussion, another kunoichi decided to test her new capabilities. Hey guys, look at this. Fu cheerfully called. Everybody turned at the Taki kunoichi, and saw that she was lifting 2 toad statues with a single finger each. They were all watched in a mixture of awe, shock, and a little terror. Everybody minus Karen, who merely crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes at the green-haired girl. Show off, she muttered. I believe that's all, Naruto said, clapping his hands once. Congratulations. From this day onwards, all of you are sages. Be sure to use this ancient noble art responsibly, Fukasaku reminded them. I'm sure you will need it for the conflicts to come. In order to celebrate, let's all go to Ikaraku's. Naruto cheerfully said. However, his cheer died when nobody replied in kind. He frowned and crossed his arms. My treat. This time, he got the cheers he was eager to hear. Fortunately for Konoha, Ichiraku Ramen managed to survive the Akatsuki invasion with nothing but some minor damage. Fortunately for Konoha because, had the ramen restaurant fallen prey to the wanton destruction, Naruto would have been filled with so much rage that he would have unleashed the nine tails on a heartbeat. But thankfully they wouldn't have to worry about that. Today it was a good day for the old cook and his daughter. While it was normal for Naruto to bring somebody with him for a meal, usually Hinata, or his siblings, never did the blonde bring such a large group with him. And given that they just came from a training session, they were especially hungry. Thanks for eating with us. We hope you enjoy your meal. I am cheerfully said as she laid all the orders on the table. Their hunger made them finish their food quite fast, though not as fast as Naruto, whom nobody saw actually eating. The moment they blinked, the bowls appeared completely empty, though they decided to stay some more time and engage in some conversation. Quickly, come on. That's it, until they heard some people, both ninjas and civilians, rushing to the nearby gates, sounding worried. All of them looked at each other, as worry started to spread. Konoha wasn't ready for another invasion so soon. Shursui got up from his chair and walked towards one of the running people. Excuse me, Shursui asked a Chunin, who was forced to stop on his tracks. What's going on? There has been a sight of a large contingent of ninjas heading to Konoha, the Chunin replied, before resuming his march. What? Shursui asked. Are we under attack? Karen asked. They say a large contingent of ninjas is heading here, Shizen interceded. They didn't say if they were enemies or not. Maybe news of the invasion spread and another village wants to capitalize on our weakened state, Rin replied. Like Kumo or IWA. That makes no sense. Kumo and IWA are too far away to move their troops so fast, Shizen replied, shaking her head. Plus, if they really wanted to attack us, they wouldn't have let us spot them so soon. There's a way for us not to be in doubt. Tensigen. Hinata said, as she expanded her eyesight, before focusing it on the direction the allegedly enemy ninjas were coming. A smile developed on her lips as her sight reached the large group. They are not enemies. They're Suna ninjas. Excitement built inside Naruto upon hearing those words. Really? They're bringing wagons with food, medicines, and building supplies. They must be coming to help us rebuild. Hinata continued, much to everybody else's joy. Hinata is dash, yes. Hinata cut Naruto before he could finish that sentence, since she knew what he was going to ask. Gaara is among them. Training ground 1, okay Haim, this is going to be a big one. Jiraiya said, as he held a truly massive Rasengan between his hands. I'm ready. Tsunade replied, getting into a defensive position. Alright, here it goes. Jiraiya said, as he leaped at Tsunade, before bringing down the gigantic Rasengan upon her. Ultra Big Ball Rasengan. Tsunade raised her hands towards the incoming attack, creating a barrier just as the chakra sphere crashed down. Said sphere started to shrink as Tsunade siphoned its chakra, the slug princess feeling how her husband's chakra was converted into her own before being funneled into her chakra network. After a few seconds, the attack was completely absorbed. Tsunade placed her hands on her hips and smirked. So, what do you think? Truly amazing, Jiraiya praised. We might not even be close to your absorption limit. We may be, Konan interceded. Remember that Tsunade-sama only has one eye. In order to have access to the Rinnegan's full power, one must possess both eyes. So far, I don't feel like we're close to any limit, Tsunade replied, though, you shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that the Preta path makes you immune to ninjutsu, Konan pointed out. As you surely noticed, you need to stand still and channel the ability in order to absorb chakra. You won't be able to do such a thing if you're moving, much less using chakra for something else, like ninjutsu of your own. Thanks for the advice, kid. Okay, let's test another power, the slug princess said as she spread one of her arms. Said arm then split apart in multiple sections, revealing a machine-like insides rather than flesh and blood, before they reassembled into what appeared to be a cannon. She pointed the cannon to a nearby rock, and fired a blast of chakra, blowing it up to pieces. It seems you can use the Azura path with no problem, Conan observed. Tsunade's arm returned to normal, as the Senju looked at her limb with incredulity. This jutsu defied both logic and biology. How can I turn my inner organs into machinery? I'm afraid I have no answer for that question, Conan admitted in a neutral tone, as she started to fly into the air. Nor I believe it's important to know. We still need to test your abilities further. Whatever you throw at me, I will be ready, Tsunade confidently boasted. However, before Conan could attack, an ANBU wearing a boar mask appeared before them. They knew it had to be important, or else he wouldn't have dared to enter the private training ground. Jiraiya-sama, I have news that require your immediate attention, the ANBU said, his tone stoic and professional. Speak, the Toad Sage commanded. A large group of Suna ninjas is approaching the village, the ANBU informed. According to a trustworthy source, they seem to come in order to provide us help in the reconstruction efforts. A smile developed on the white-haired man's face. Well, those are excellent news indeed. I believe we should give them the greeting they deserve. You should go. I think I'll stay here with Conan and continue our training, Tsunade replied. A good decision. We won't have much time until Akatsuki strikes again, and we'll need Tsunade-sama to develop as much skill with the Rinnegan as we can, Conan agreed. Alright then. This shouldn't take much. See you later, Jiraiya said, as he and the ANBU body flickered away. Tsunade and Conan resumed their spar. Back at one of Konoha's entrances, a large group had gathered around it. Just like Hinata said, the group turned out to be Suna ninjas who carried plenty of supplies and workforce for the reparation efforts. The Konoha ninjas were more than happy to help them unload all the crates and boxes they had carried from Suna. They recognized quite a few faces, such as Maki, and her students Matsuri, Yutaka, and Mokoshi. And leading this group were no other than the Sand siblings, Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari. Naruto and Hinata quickly went to greet them as they deserved. Thank you guys for coming, Naruto excitedly said. Your timing couldn't have been any better. Your presence here is a surprise, but a welcomed one, for sure, Hinata added, giggling a little. The trio of Suna ninjas stared at the Hyuga, looking a bit surprised. It took Naruto and Hinata a few moments to realize what they were looking at. Oh, it's my eyes, isn't it? I don't think we saw each other since Gaara's kidnapping, Hinata said realization. My Byakugan evolved to a higher level, called Tensigan. I will tell you in more detail later. I see, Gaara said, deciding not to ask about the issue. Anyway, when our father got the news about Konoha being invaded, he immediately decided to send some help. Guess he didn't forget how much Konoha helped us during our time in need. And naturally, we volunteered to be part of the mission, Kankuro chimed in. We will always take a chance to come to Konoha. Especially Temari. For some reason, Naruto and Hinata expected Temari to yell something at her little brother, but the blonde kunoichi merely crossed her arms and rolled her eyes. Not being able to get any reaction out of her seemed to bother the puppet master a bit. Anyway, Temari spoke for the first time. Is Shikamaru here? Because we're going to have a problem if he happens to be on a mission just when I had an opportunity to drop by. Let me check, Hinata said, as she seemed to zone out for a bit. Nope, he's here. In fact, his whole team is coming this way. Though Shikamaru-san is dragging them down considerably. Temari let out an annoyed sigh. Better late than never, I suppose. By the way, I know you guys probably have a lot of problem with housing right now, Kankuro interceded. But given that our ninjas and us are going to spend quite some time in the village while we help, I was wondering if we could get a place to stay. We did bring plenty of tents just in case there are no hotels or houses we can use, Temari added. But even then, we do need some space to set them up. Don't worry, I'm sure that my dad can arrange something so your stay here is as comfortable as possible, Naruto reassured them. After all, it's the least we could do, given that you came here to help us. By the way, Hinata interjected. I can't help but notice that there are not just Tsunade ninjas among your group. How did you end up with those three? Hinata nodded at the trio of Kumo ninjas, who were also helping unload some of the crate wagons. Both she and Naruto recognized them as Killer Bee's students, who came to Konoha to take part in the Chunin exams. They knew Choji managed to befriend the dark-skinned red-headed girl, the one named Karui, and even became pen pals. We found them on our way here, Gaara replied. At first we thought that they were scouts or spies, trying to assess Konoha's situation for a future attack. To finish what Akatsuki started. But given that they aren't restrained or anything, I assume that's not the case. Hinata guessed. Which would be dumb if it were, Naruto added, crossing his arms. We did help them when Akatsuki attacked the Land of Lightning in a ruse to abduct one of their Jinchuriki. In the end Akatsuki won, but the gesture remained. We interrogated them, and they claimed that they were carrying out a diplomatic mission, Gaara began. To deliver a very important message from the wreckage to the Hokage. Our censor ninjas confirmed that they weren't lying. Did they tell you what the message is about? Naruto inquired. Gaara shook his head. They said their orders were to deliver it to the Hokage and the Hokage alone, and that they weren't allowed to discuss it with anybody. Though, one of them did let something slip, Kankuro mentioned. The boy with the oral fixation said that there were other groups of Kumo ninjas delivering similar messages to the other great villages, ours included. That's intriguing, Naruto said, pressing his lips. Do you wonder what the message is about? I have some ideas, but nothing concrete, Gaara admitted. We'll know once they meet with the Hokage and deliver the message. You have message for me, a new voice said. Everybody turned around and saw Jiraiya behind them. It appeared that he had arrived just now, and caught the tail end of their conversation. Greetings, Hokage-sama. We heard about what happened here regarding the Akatsuki, Gaara saluted, making a small bow. On my father, the Kazekage's behalf, we brought you various supplies and able-bodied ninjas that will help with the reconstruction efforts. Suna's help is both welcomed and very appreciated, Jiraiya replied, returning the bow. You also mentioned the message. It's not them who have a message for you, Hokage-sama, Karui said, as she and her teammates walked to him, having finally spotted him. Can we go to somewhere private? It's a delicate matter to discuss. Sure. We'll take this conversation to my office, Jiraiya offered. Naruto might want to come as well, Omoi suggested. Given that we came here because of Akatsuki. Naruto and Jiraiya exchanged worried looks. A few minutes later, Hokage's office, what? No! Naruto cried. There's no way Killer Bee fell prey to the Akatsuki as well. Jiraiya had read the message from the wreckage out loud. It informed of Killer Bee's capture by Deidara and Kisame, followed by a formal summon to a Kage summit that would be held in the Land of Iron in less than 3 weeks. Each Kage could only bring an escort of 2 ninjas with them, in order to quell any potential threats of aggression. Jiraiya already knew who would be bringing with him. I'll send a messenger toad to the wreckage telling him that I will be there, Jiraiya told the 3 Kumo Chunin. As for you 3, I'll arrange some living quarters for you until you decide to leave. It's appreciated, Hokage-sama, Karui replied, making a slight bow. We know your village isn't exactly in the best shape to accommodate guests. Guess this confirms our worst fears, Naruto sadly said. With Killer Bee captured and his tailed beast sealed, all that was left for Akatsuki was to kidnap both Fu and me in order to complete their plan. I've been trying to locate Killer Bee, but I was unable to, Jiraiya mentioned, before his eyes shifted to the Kumo ninjas. Where was he, may I ask? We had a special shelter in a place to the north of Kumo called the Valley of Cloud and Lightning, Omoi began. Its terrain is very hard to traverse, and its location was one of Kumo's top guarded secret. Not even we knew where it was, T chimed in. Not that it mattered, given that Akatsuki found the place in a way to overcome its difficult terrain, Karui said, scoffing a little. Anyway, Reikage-sama will be pleased to know that you're going to attend. Hopefully the other three Kages decide to go as well. I can assure you that the Kazekage and the Mizukage will go as well, Jiraiya told the redhead. The Tsuchikage, though, I couldn't tell. We don't have much of a relationship with IWA. Neither you nor any village, T interceded. They have fame of wanting to do things their way and scoff at the idea of an alliance. Let's hope they change their mind, or else Akatsuki will eat us alive, Karui said, as she started to leave, her two teammates behind her. Hokage-sama. Jiraiya nodded as the three foreign ninjas left his office. So this Kage summit, Naruto began. It's a good thing, right? If they want all Kages to meet and discuss the Akatsuki threat with the help of the other villages, dealing with them will be much easier. In theory, yes, Jiraiya told Naruto. In practice, not so much. Even with the threat of Akatsuki, tension between villages still exists, and some of them haven't suffered the scourge of Akatsuki like we did, other than the loss of their Jinchuriki. Suna and Kiri are already on our side, Naruto pointed out. With more than half the villages on a single front, maybe the other two will join us? I'm counting on that, Jiraiya replied. Though we should be careful as well. Rather than joining us, Kumo and IWA may take this as a threat and join together against us. But the Akatsuki is the real enemy here. Plus we did help Kumo with one of their Jinchuriki. Naruto protested, throwing his hands into the air. I know, and I do plan to remind them of that, Jiraiya stated. However, things aren't as clear-cut as they are from our point of view. I mean, the fact that it was the Reikage who requested this summit is good, since that means he's willing to cooperate with other villages against the Akatsuki threat. If I play my cards right, there's a good chance we may enlist the rest of the villages for our cause. Let's hope, Naruto agreed, before he remembered another part of the message. The Reikage said that you're only allowed to bring 2 people with you. Who do you have in mind? That's an easy one. I'm taking your mom and Itachi Uchiha. They're 2 of Konoha's strongest and well-known ninjas, meaning that I can make a show of force in front of the other villages, and I'll have my back covered if things get ugly, Jiraiya explained. Naruto visibly deflated, which didn't go unnoticed by the white-haired man. What? Did you expect me to bring you? I am among the strongest ninjas in the village. Not to mention one of the 2 Jinchuriki left, Naruto dejectedly told him. Naruto, I'm not taking you for several reasons, Jiraiya began. First, you're much safer here. If I took you out of the safety of our walls, well, that would be like daring the Akatsuki to come and snatch you. And 2, given the recent invasion, I thought you deserve a little break. While I'm out on this, you should try to relax and have some fun. You aren't the only one who suggested me that, Naruto said, chuckling. Hinata also told me that I needed to do something other than training or missions. Jiraiya's mouth curved into a perverse grin. Oh, does she want some alone time with you? Naruto merely rolled his eyes. Nah. She said to do something with the rest of our friends. She has a point, it's been a while since we did something all together that isn't a mission. I see, Jiraiya said, his face returning to normal. He smiled again, albeit this time it was more earnest. May I give you a suggestion? Akatsuki did make quite the number in your village, didn't they? Temari asked before letting out a whistle of admiration, as she contemplated the ruined buildings around her. I shudder to think that this could have happened to Suna. Temari, alongside other Suna ninjas, were helping the Konoha ninjas to move construction supplies such as concrete, sand, or metallic grids to the zones in need of them. The saddest part is, this isn't even the first time it happened, Shikamaru, who was working alongside her, replied. I think we told you about all the other invasions we had to go through, right? The Nine Tails attack, the Uchiha insurrection, Orochimaru's invasion, and more recently, Akatsuki, Temari recounted, with her boyfriend nodded in confirmation. Man, if anything, it speaks volumes of how resilient you guys are. Any village that went through so many invasions in such a small time span should be defunct by now. Guess that speaks volumes about Konoha, doesn't it? Shikamaru asked, feeling a little patriotic pride, which was kind of an odd feeling for him. And what about you? Temari asked. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, why do you ask? Shikamaru replied, raising an eyebrow. Don't I look okay to you? You do. But given the experience, I thought that maybe the invasion got you down a little, Temari said. I take you were among the lucky ones who didn't lose a loved one. You could said that, Shikamaru lazily replied. However, there was something in the way he said that got Temari suspicious. What do you mean? Did you actually lose somebody or? No, Shikamaru stated. But if I did it wouldn't have mattered, because the Akatsuki leader returned everybody to life. Needless to say, Temari was quite shocked at such revelation, her eyes growing wide, but narrowing next upon realizing how much of a nonsense it was. Shikamaru seemed to pick his girlfriend's reaction, and continued speaking. It's true, you can ask other people if you don't believe me. Some freaky Rinnegan power or something like that. Rinnegan? But, Temari began, flabbergasted. Even if that were true, how is that the Akatsuki leader decided to help you? It makes no sense. Apparently Naruto went to talk with him. I think Naruto made him feel bad about what he had done, and in order to atone before dying brought everybody back from the death, Shikamaru elaborated. The other Akatsuki then surrendered without fighting any further. As the sand-blonde Kunoichi tried to digest Shikamaru's unbelievable tale, another realization dawned upon her. Wait, did you guys collect the Rinnegan? Because such power dash, yeah, we did, Shikamaru replied, not letting her finish her question. Unfortunately, Akatsuki managed to snatch one of the eyes from us, with Danzo's help. Old bastard, well, at least you guys still keep the other eye, Temari said. You don't know what are they going to do with it, do you? Shikamaru shook his head. Like they're going to make a mere chunin like me privy of what do they plan to do with such an item of power. Though guess that we'll know soon enough. From what I heard, we need those eyes if we want to release all the tailed beasts captured by Akatsuki. Temari accepted Shikamaru's response with a nod, as the two of them resumed their work, opening crates and unloading their contents, before either stacking them on a pile or handing them to the people who needed them. After a few minutes of working in silence, Shikamaru decided to open his mouth again. So how long are you planning to stay? Shikamaru asked. Father told us that we could stay as long as the reparation efforts lasted. Unless there's an emergency, we aren't needed in Suna, Temari answered, as she carried another crate, ready to open. She shot Shikamaru a taunting smirk. Why? Are you already counting the minutes until I'm out of your hair? Quite the contrary. Did I give you that impression? Shikamaru asked, chuckling awkwardly. I always enjoy when you come to visit. Given that other times made you look as if being with me is some sort of chore, Temari replied, sounding a little hurt. Because I love getting a reaction out of you, Shikamaru said, chuckling again, this time more earnestly. Do you find it amusing? Temari asked, raising an eyebrow. Yes. But it also tells me that you care, Shikamaru replied. Though if you want me to stop doing it, you only need to ask. Then please drop it. It's kind of childish, the blonde asked. As you wish, Shikamaru said, shrugging a little. Though in all seriousness, I'm really happy to know that you're going to be here for some time. It will be nice to see you several days in a row. I mean, did you know some people think I'm making you up when I told them about you? Really? Temari asked, suppressing a chuckle. Well, I can imagine. Some boys from Suna also think that I say I have a boyfriend in Konoha just so they leave me alone. That's one weird thing to have in common. Albeit it's obvious that the reasons people think that of us aren't the same, Shikamaru commented. By the way, where are you staying? I'm afraid all the hotels are being used as improvised infirmaries, storehouses, and barracks for our ninjas. We know. The Hokage reserved a training field for our ninjas so we can set our tents there, Temari said. That doesn't appear to be very comfortable, Shikamaru pointed out. Especially since you came here to help. I think you guys deserve a little better. I know, but what else can we do? We're in no position to be demanding, Temari said in resignation. We came here to help, not to hog space other people may need. Well, Shikamaru began. He lowered his gaze as he rubbed the back of his neck, looking uncomfortable. You could stay at my place? Temari's eyes were open wide in shock. Come again? You could stay at my place, Shikamaru repeated, this time sounding more confident. We have quite a few spare rooms, so not just you, but you could also bring your brothers or whoever you want. And given that you're helping the village, I don't think my folks will object to it. Temari stopped what she was doing to place her full attention on her boyfriend. She placed her hands on her hips, as her expression became one of skepticism. So you okay with me meeting your parents? Like, really? I'm sure I'm going to regret it later, but better do it now and get it out of my hair, Shikamaru said, rubbing the back of his head again. The lazy Nara was surprised when she found Temari's arms wrapped around his neck, and her lips pressed against her cheeks. Thank you, the Suna Kunoichi whispered into his ear. Shikamaru smiled at her. Okay, mission completed, Karui said, as she and her two teammates walked through the streets of Konoha. Good thing the Hokage said he'd go to the summit. Hopefully in no time, the other villages will hunt the Akatsuki down and B-sensei will be avenged. The other two nodded sadly. While they wanted justice for their beloved sensei, they knew that no matter how many Akatsuki died, nothing would bring Killer Bee back. Their absence is something they'll have to get used to. And we aren't the only ones who lost people to the Akatsuki, Karui thought, as she looked at the ruined building around her. Though there were ruined and destroyed buildings, they wouldn't stay like that for long, since she also saw plenty of ninja and civilian alike tirelessly working on the reconstruction of their village. If there was something it could be said about Konoha, is that they were diligent. So, do you guys want to do anything? We've made a long trip here and I really don't feel like going back home just now. Maybe we could see the sights this village has to offer? Omoy asked. Those who hadn't been reduced to rubble, I mean. We barely had any time to do that the last time we were here because of the Chunin exams. We could get something to eat first, T mentioned. I would like to eat something other than ration bars and fish. And Konoha has pretty good restaurants. Guess that's something we could do, Karui replied, nodding as well. Hopefully a couple restaurants not far away from here may have survived the Akatsuki's attack. Omoy was also going to agree, until something drew his attention. A pair of stocky ninjas, one old and one young, clearly father and son, were using a jutsu to enlarge their arms in order to move heavy construction supplies such as metal girds or wooden beams around. The Kumo ninja, however, remembered who that ninja was. Hey, Karui, Omoy said, as he nodded at the working pair. Isn't that the guy you write letters to? Where? Karui suddenly said, unwittingly shouting but willingly trying to keep her voice down. Nervous, the red-headed Kwanichi frantically looked around, until he spotted the young man in question. Oh yeah. Well, it's normal that he's here working to rebuild his village, isn't it? And why are you looking at me like that? Aren't you planning to go and say him hi? T asked in a teasing tone. I mean, it's a pretty good chance, given that we were given Konoha of all villages to deliver the message to. I'm sure you'd regret if we left without meeting him at least once. Don't worry about us, Omoi preemptively said, as he and his other female teammates started to walk away in the opposite direction. We'll look for a nice place to eat. Once we found one, we'll tell you. Wait. Don't leave me alone. Karui said, as her eyes frantically shifted back and forth between Choji and her teammates, who were getting further and further away. Ugh, you guys suck. You're going to regret this. Huffing, Karui decided to walk towards Choji. At the very least, the two dumbasses decided to leave her alone. There's no way she could have approached Choji with those two teasing her constantly. As she walked towards the Konoha ninja, who was with a man she presumed was his father, Karui's heart started to beat faster and faster. Come on girl, you completed S-rank missions, you surely can talk to a boy, Karui reminded herself, and once she was close enough, she opened her mouth. Hello. That came way louder than she expected, if the way Choji and his dad were startled was anything to go by. The two of them quickly turned around. What the? Choji asked, almost defensively, as he turned around. However, the tension of his body disappeared, and his mouth curved into a smile the moment she saw who had called him. Karui. Hey there, said, waving weakly at him. Long time no see, huh? Indeed. Choji energically nodded. It's amazing how much you grew. You look so pretty. Thank you. You grew up a lot as well, as I can see. I mean, you're taller than me, Karui said, as she wiped a strand of hair from her face away. Good thing he didn't mention my chest. So, Choji, the larger man with the wild red hair said. I take this as the girl you've been writing letters to. She is. Choji happily said. Dad, this is Karui. Karui, this is my dad Choza Akimichi, leader of the Akimichi clan. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir, Karui said, making a head bow. Same here. Though I do remember you from the Chunin exams, Choza stated. You gave my son quite the beating, didn't you? Karui grew visibly uncomfortable, as she tried to find a way to salvage the situation. Relax, girl. I'm not going to hold that against you, Choza boomed, giving Karui a mighty slap on her back. So mighty, she almost fell on her face. We Akimikis find strong women very appealing. Strong women produce and raise strong children. That's how a clan stays in top shape. That did nothing but increase Karui's uneasiness, albeit now for completely unrelated reasons. If this man pulls out a marriage contract, I'm so out of here. Dad, Choji pointed out, noticing, and even sharing, some of the Kumo Kunoichi's uneasiness. I think you're going too far. You're making Karui a little uncomfortable. I am? Choza asked, genuinely surprised. Way more than a little, but thanks. Great timing there, Choji. Karui mentally thanked him. Oh, my apologies then. I didn't want to suggest anything hasty, Choza admitted, before taking a very large crate between his arms. I'd better move this box towards the Jonin station. I'll leave you alone so the two of you can catch up. Okay, Dad. See you later, Choji said. See you later, son, Choza said before leaving. Both Karui and Choji sighed in unison once the Akimichi clan patriarch was seen turning at a corner, disappearing behind a half-destroyed building. I'm sorry for my dad, Choji said, rubbing his neck in embarrassment. He's very excited about you. I could tell, Karui breathed. So what brings you to the village? Choji asked, hoping that a change of topic would help push the awkwardness of the situation away. My team was sent here by Reikage-sama to deliver a message to your Hokage, in order to set a date for an upcoming Kage summit, Karui explained. Hoping all 5 villages could deal with Akatsuki together. Did Akatsuki also attack Kumo? Choji asked, looking worried. Not exactly. My sensei, Killer Bee was attacked and kidnapped by the Akatsuki, Karui said, as she cast her eyes down, sadness creeping upon her. Oh, was all the Akimichi could say in return. Too am sorry for your loss, especially since it had to be a huge blow. If it were a Suma-sensei, I don't know what I would have done. It's okay. It's not that it's your fault, Karui replied, before she looked around. I'm guessing that, after they snatched B-sensei from his hiding place, they came here to get your Jinchuriki, right? Yeah, Choji said. Thankfully they failed. Had they captured Naruto and Fu, they would have all tailed Beast under their control. Did you guys manage to kill some of them? Karui asked. Yeah. The leader is dead. And another one, a woman, surrendered to Konoha after their defeat, Choji explained. Karui scowled a little. Damn it. I was hoping that at least Kisame and Deidara would be rotting in hell right now. Those were the ones who captured your sensei? Choji asked. Karui nodded. Kisame also helped to capture Yujito-sama, so we have even more reasons to hate him. Well, think that you still have the chance to get revenge on them. Though you should be careful, every Akatsuki member is a powerhouse on their own, and those two are no exception, Choji advised her. I don't mind if I'm not the one who brings them down, as long as they get their just desserts, Karui told Choji. If I can help their downfall in any way, I will. I'm on the same boat. Akatsuki was already bad before, but look how much they wreck our home, Choji told her, as he spread his arms around for added effect. Hopefully this will be the beginning of an alliance between Konoha and Kumo. Yeah, let's hope the Kage summit goes well, Karui agreed. There was a moment of awkward silence as the two teens stayed there next to each other, doing or saying nothing. Until Choji decided to break the silence. So now that you gave the message, are you planning on leaving? Choji asked. Or do you plan to stay a bit? After such a long trek for a mere message, neither me nor my teammates feel like going back home so soon, Karui told him, and the redhead could see the rotund boy growing more excited. Though given the state the village is right now, it might not be for the best if we nonsense. Please stay all the time you need. Choji insisted, loudly interrupting her. I mean, we're already housing a lot of ninjas from Suna that came here to help, so we can afford 3 more people. Before Karui could reply, they were interrupted by a loud, rumbling noise. Choji would have apologized for such a thing, but the Akimichi knew his stomach too well to know when it was him. Karui seemed to be on the same boat, as the redhead's expression was that of embarrassment. Man, T was right. We've been way too much time eating nothing but ration bars and fish, Karui complained. If you want to eat, there's this restaurant that serves the best barbecue of the entire village. Choji enthusiastically said, not missing a chance to share his favorite eating spot with a girl he liked. My treat. Really? Thanks. I'm not going to say no to free food right now, Karui said. Lead the way, Choji. And with a huge smile plastered on his face, Choji walked towards Yakiniku-Q with Karui walking beside him. While the redhead would try to hide it, she was smiling as well. While most of the Suna ninjas were helping with the reconstruction of the village, some of them were proving to be more helpful than others, albeit more due their abilities rather than enthusiasm or intent. And there was a certain somebody whose abilities that he had since he was born made construction work trivially easy. Using his sand, Gaara was able to do the work of multiple people in far less time, all at once. He could push debris away, move and lift heavy objects like wooden beams or crates of bricks, place iron girds in the ground, and many more. However, this didn't mean that the effort he was making didn't took its toll on the former Jinchuriki, as he was expending chakra as quickly as if he were in a fight to the death. Beads of sweat started to roll down Gaara's forehead, which he wiped with the sleeve of his shirt from time to time. However, the former Jinchuriki didn't complain nor requested a break. Fortunately for him, the other people working alongside the redhead decided that he had deserved a rest for the time being. Okay, I think we're done here, a large man wearing stained working clothes and a helmet on his head said, as he walked towards Gaara. You made quite the quick work, kid. I'm here to help as much as I can, Gaara stoically said. What can I do now? For now, nothing. We've done a good job with the heavy lifting, but now it's time for the more specialized craftsmen to take the lead, the man said. Why don't you take a break? I still have energy. I can continue, the former Jinchuriki insisted. Don't push yourself too hard, kid. You helped us a lot already. Trust me, there will be more work for you when you come back. Now go and relax a little, the man said, as he nodded towards an approaching girl. Gaara saw that said girl in question was Matsuri, coming at him with a small smile on his face. Hey, she said. Hello, Gaara replied. Have you finished your assigned tasks too? Matsuri chuckled uneasily. Not in the slightest. We simply decided to take a break. You know, I thought this would be like a D-rank mission, but it's much harder than it looks. I can relate to that, Gaara said, wiping some more sweat from his brow. I think this used to be easier when I still had Shikaku inside of me. Here, Matsuri said, before pulling out a canteen buckled to her belt, and handed it to the redhead. Gaara took the canteen, which he noted was half full, and downed whatever water was left in one go. Thank you, Gaara said, returning the canteen. You're welcome, the brown-haired girl said, blushing a little, as she returned the canteen to her belt. So given that we have some spare time, care to go for a walk with me? This is my first time in Konoha, and I'd like to see it a bit better. You've been here before, maybe you could show me? Sure, Gaara agreed. Though the village used to be a better sight before all this destruction. Matsuri merely shrugged. I can always return another time once the reconstruction is finished. Besides, it's not that she was that interested in seeing the village to begin with, but it was a good excuse as good as any other to spend some relaxing time with her crush. West Gate of Konoha, next morning not wanting to waste any more time, Jiraiya decided to head to the Land of Iron as soon as possible, lest the summit would start without him. A crowd had gathered around the Hokage to bid him goodbye, among them being his children, his sensei, and other ninja close to him and those he was taking as escorts, such as Shizune and the rest of the Uchihas. Like he had told Naruto, Tsunade and Itachi were the chosen ones. Not just to display Konoha power, but in case that the worst came to happen, those two provided the best combination of abilities. Itachi's ninjutsu and genjutsu could provide good ranged cover, while Tsunade could act as both frontline fighter and heal any injury that may happen to the trio. The slug Sannin and the Uchiha were wearing the standard Konoha uniform, blue navy long-sleeved shirt, pants, and a green flak jacket, clothes that neither of them used to wear. Though in Tsunade's case, she had to wear the flak jacket unzipped, since her massive chest made it impossible to zip it up. So many years later, and there are no jackets for women my size, Tsunade grumbled, recalling the last time she had to wear the official uniform. Interestingly enough, it was also a meeting involving the Raikage. Alright, I presume that, at a good pace, it will take us about a week to reach the Land of Iron, Jiraiya stated. While the summit will be in 12 days. That will allow us some window of time in case an unexpected event happens. Have a safe trip, Jiraiya-sama, Shizune told him. Jiraiya nodded at her, before turning at the previous Hokage. Once again, sorry for piling my job on you, sensei, Jiraiya told his master. But I trust no other to run the village in my absence. Don't feel guilty, Jiraiya. In my case, I would have done the same, Hiruzen replied with a nod. I'll make sure the reconstruction goes as smoothly as possible. Make sure Naruto and Fu are under constant watch, Jiraiya told him. I wouldn't put past Akatsuki sneaking an agent to kidnap them taking advantage of me leaving. Come on dad, we aren't helpless, Naruto protested, as he coursed his arms. Remember that it was me who saved you from pain, not the other way around. Jiraiya smiled at him. I know. But I can't help but worry about you, son. So while I'm out, try not to draw much attention, okay? Okay, Dad, Naruto replied. Jiraiya returned his attention to his former sensei once more. It's possible that, if things go smoothly in the summit and we all reach an understanding, we might launch a joint offensive against the Akatsuki. Then I'll make sure all our ninjas are ready to move once the time is right, Hiruzen replied, before Jiraiya had any chance to issue more orders. I've lived through all 3 wars, Jiraiya. I know better than anybody here how this works. Though truth be told, it makes me sad that I'll live to see yet another war. If things go good, it will be over before we realize it, and there won't be more wars in a long time, Tsunade spoke up for the first time. Let's hope, Hiruzen said. I'll also make sure our defenses are in top condition in case Akatsuki decides to strike first. Good. I'll rest easier knowing that the village will be in good hands in my absence, Jiraiya said with a nod. He then noticed Gaara, who walked towards him. Hokage-sama, given that you're going to see my father, please tell him that we arrived here safely, and that we're helping the village as intended. Don't worry, kid, I will, Jiraiya replied, as he turned around, Itachi and Tsunade doing the same. Tsunadeheim, Itachi, let's go. Yes, the 2 jonin said in unison, as they followed Jiraiya into the forests of the Land of Fire. Once the Hokage and his 2 escorts were no longer visible, everybody else returned to the village, back to their daily tasks.